Come on, Ruby. Let's walk down this way. Come on. Let's go this way, doggy. Hey, what's up? I know people are going to ask me what happened to my forehead, so I'm just going to tell you. Maybe somebody can write it in the chat. I can pin it. I was walking the dog and I got scratched by a tree branch. I'd like to say I got attacked by the Mossad, but that has not happened yet. Can anybody see? I don't know. I'm new to using these backgrounds. Can anybody see at the top where it says, does Israel have the right to exist? Because I don't know how to do all these graphics things. It is such a nice day here where I am. It's like perfect. What is the temperature for those? Oh, somebody says, God bless Israel. Okay, good. I'm Pizza Boy. How you doing? Let me see if you have enough followers to come up. I'm looking to have a conversation with only 20. Darn it. Yeah, you can say that. Listen, I appreciate that point of view. I would have some different words to use in that direction, but I'm going to keep it nice. But anyway, yeah. Okay, good. So what I'm trying to do today is to have somebody come up and sort of, answer the question, whether it's one way or the other. Long live Zion, Ted Brown 40. Let me see if I can find Ted. Ted has 17 followers. I don't know. It seems like the people that are being pro-Israel don't have many people that support them. Between the two of them, I think they had a total of 27 followers. It's not very many. But what does Zionism mean? Does anybody know what Zionism means? It actually means the return to Zion. That's where the term comes from, Zionism. And it means the right to establish self-determination for a Jewish state in its purest form. Someone here, Ted says, I follow Jesus. One is God enough. Or maybe it's good enough. This is the interesting thing. Most people don't know this, but of all the Zionists in the world, many are Jewish, but more Zionists than the Jewish people who are Zionists who are Jewish are by far outnumbered by evangelical Christian Zionists. There are approximately 23 million evangelical Christian Zionists in the United States in the Bible Belt, which is pretty crazy. And if you don't know the reason why, I'll tell you in a bit here. Somebody says here, Vicky says, yes, God will always protect Israel. America needs to do the same. I would say this would be my rebuttal to that, to Vicky. I would say that it's important for all of us to make sure that people who are Jewish are free from harm, whether it's any kind of exploitation. And that goes for all peoples. Whether or not it takes the form of the nation state of Israel is a whole other conversation. Because again, if the point is to have safety and security from persecution historically, that's awesome. If the point is to impose an ethno-state in a region that's primarily Arab, or was at the time, whether you want to argue the 3,000 year ago thing, it's been very disruptive, right? I mean, you can try to say, you may feel there are pros or cons, but I think the cons have outweighed the pros, at least for most people. Look how unsettling it's been for the region. So, okay, somebody's asking what happened to my head. So it's very simple. I'm going to show you close up. I was walking the dog, and she was going crazy over some deer. And what happened was, as I was walking into the woods to stop her from running away from me, a dead tree branch was hanging down, pretty big one, and it was broken off at the end, and it hit my forehead. I've done this like 5 times before, either playing with the dog or in the woods. I have to get like plastic on my forehead or something. Anyway, it's not a problem. It's like a little minor scratch. It just takes a while to heal, and I have to be careful. In the shower, when you dry yourself off in the shower, it's very easy to scrub your head, and I've reopened it sometimes doing that. Someone says at least it missed your eye. I think someone else would say unfortunately it didn't. That's okay though. Yeah, just little stuff, just silly stuff. Okay, so the goal today is to bring up folks who are going to argue this point. Now again, I'm not doing this from a malicious standpoint, just to be very clear. I'm not somebody who's an adamant, quote, anti-Israel person as far as existence is concerned, but I do have issues with regard to the harm that it caused, right? I think it's fair to say, if you're going to be really honest and objective, it's fair to say, listen, I don't know anybody in Israel. I don't know anybody from Palestine. It's fair to say that while it was a benefit to many people for the formation of Israel, it also hurt others. I think that's just a fair way to look at it. And the question is, was the establishment worth it in general? And does Israel therefore have the right to exist, or was it more of a problem than it should have been? Is there another way to have established a safe set of circumstances for Jewish people? Okay, we have Mr. Horse and we have Freddie Mac. So I'm going to bring up some guests. I do want to remind the guests of the ground rules. My panels are very, very easy to deal with. Okay, so anybody's welcome to come up and speak. All I ask is this: no personal attacks. So let's just keep it on the issue. And in the comments, if someone's up who disagrees with you, please don't do this. Don't attack them personally. You're welcome to disagree with the issues, but let's keep it on the issues and let's not interrupt each other. So what I'll do is I'll bring somebody up. We'll have a little combo, and if they want to speak for a couple minutes uninterrupted, I'll go on mute. I ask that everybody else stay on mute while they're doing that, and we'll go back and forth. I'll try to keep it under 2 minutes. Okay. I'll bring up Freddie Mac. Hopefully, have a good conversation here.
How you
Mr.
doing?
Horse. I'm okay, Mr. Horse. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm going to let Freddie Mac talk first. How about that?
That's fine if you want to change the order, but right now Freddie Mac hasn't connected yet, so it might take a second for him to connect all the way through. And by the way, just real quick to the audience and
It should be
anybody who
here.
wants to request. Freddie Mac just got in yet, but let me just say this to the audience. Sometimes if you're having trouble getting in and you get disconnected, it's not that I did it to you. It's that the TikTok app sometimes won't let it load properly. And you might be able to see yourself, but I can't see you or hear you. So if that happens to you, the best thing to do is to exit TikTok, reset your data connection by hitting the airplane mode, and then come on back in and re-request. Okay, Freddie Mac, welcome.
Hey, Chad, how you doing, buddy?
I'm
Oh, Chip,
okay.
I'm sorry. I called you Chad. Chip, I'm sorry.
I've been called way worse. Go ahead.
No, no, no. I love your lives. You do a great job.
Well,
So
thank you.
I don't really need 2 minutes. It's a kind of ironic that you are bringing this question up because I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Do they have the right to exist? I'd rather phrase it a little differently. Do they deserve to exist?
Okay.
And and to me, the answer to that question is no country deserves to exist um, based on their behavior for the last 75 years and more importantly the last 6 months, the genocide that they've been committing. So
Okay.
do they have the right to exist? I mean, I suppose so, but do they deserve to exist? And to me, the answer to that question is no. They really don't deserve to exist. Any country that behaves the way that they are behaving, they don't deserve to exist. And it's unfortunate. I'm sure the person above me is probably going to, and this is not a personal attack, but he's got a Jewish star there, so I'm assuming he's going to bring up Hamas about 20 times, and I'm going to take an educated guess and say he's probably going to start with October 7th. And anyone who has half a brain knows that this did not start on October 7th. So to put it in a nutshell, I don't think they deserve to exist at all at this point. They're not worthy
Let
of
me
it.
let,
They're not
let me
worthy.
play let me play devil's advocate for a second. I tend to lean where you are, but I also understand there are other arguments. So what about somebody that says if it weren't for the state of Israel, that everybody in the area or around the world would want to completely unalive Jewish people? It's like basically the lifeline for the Jewish people to survive. What do you say about that?
That's a lie. It's a false narrative. That's all. It's a
Okay.
false narrative. It's a false narrative. That's what they wanted us to believe. Just like here in the United States, they want us to believe that this country was always ours. Somehow it was taken away from us, and then we regained it back. So therefore, we have to be patriots. We were so indoctrinated in school of thinking that this country was always ours, but it wasn't. I mean, it really wasn't. Half of it, I believe, if my history is correct, was Mexico at one time, and the indigenous Indians lived here before we came here and colonized it, plain and simple. And that's exactly what Israel did. So I understand your point, but I think that's just a false narrative. We gotta move the Jews somewhere so they're not persecuted even more than what Hitler did. It's just a false narrative to me.
Well, the Zionist movement was started in the late 1800s. So World War II, as horrific as it was with what happened in terms of persecution and all the death and suffering, was really at the very tail end of the Zionist project that at least culminated in the formation of Israel.
Correct.
But it did drastically increase immigration as immigration ramped up dramatically between 1925 and 1945. So a lot of people use that argument. Again, the goal, in my opinion, should be safety from persecution and not being mistreated. The question is, why would you plop down a Jewish ethno-state in a region that was overwhelmingly populated by predominantly Arab and mostly Muslims, some Christians?
Well,
That's a
if
fair
I
question to ask.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to answer that. Again, it's the narrative that the Zionists portray to everybody, and that is it was a desolate land. There was nobody here. We turned it around. We turned the agriculture around. We turned the manufacture around. We made it a vibrant state. And that's what a lot of Jewish people and Zionist people believe, that it wasn't a country where people lived and people
Yeah.
worked, and there was a government and there was a culture, and there with Muslims and Jews and Christians living together. So yeah, again, nothing but false narratives, nothing but propaganda. If you were to go back to 1949 or 48 and ask me the same question, I would say no, they don't have a right to exist there. Who gave them the right to take over a land? Just like who gave the Europeans to take over this land?
Right.
So I like to use the word deserve. They don't deserve to have a land right now. They haven't proven themselves in the world stage deserving of their own land, because all they've done is create havoc for the Palestinian people as well as people in the Middle East, period.
What about, there's a comment that I thought might be worthy of bringing up. Someone said, why won't other Arab nations take them, meaning Palestinians?
Oh, I'd love to
Uh,
answer that question. I'd
okay.
love to answer that question. Why should they? Why should they? This is the Palestinian land, and this is what I love about the Palestinian people. They are resilient. They know exactly where they're from. They know exactly where they came from. They know exactly where they're at right now, and they're not going to give up their right to exist. And if anything, the Arab nations, to me, if they're going to interfere in this at all, I think they should hold sanctions against Israel, and I think they should retaliate exactly the way Israel has been retaliating as well. They're not necessarily retaliating. They started this mess, but going with Iran, they had every right to retaliate, every single right to retaliate. Why does Israel, when Israel does something, well, they're protecting their land. When someone else does it, it's a terrorist attack. So Israel has done absolutely nothing but create havoc in the Middle East. And then they turn around and say, well, that land was for us. We deserve it.
Sure.
God gave it to us. But what God? I want to know what God gave it to them. Why didn't he give
That's
it
a
to the
fair point.
Muslims? Why didn't he give it to the Christians? What God are
Let's
they
do this.
referring to?
Let's let Mr. Horse come in, because you've made some interesting allegations and points. Let's do this.
Okay.
Mr. Freddie Mac, if you can hold, please stay though. You have some really interesting points to share. Mr. Horse, I hope you're able to jump in if you're okay with it.
All
If you want
right,
to jump
I
in.
will. First thing, I'm Jewish. I'm actually a Christian, and I'm a practicing Christian. I'm a practicing Catholic, actually. Um, and the symbol you actually see is a Catholic symbol, and
Yeah.
this is the symbol of the Trinity, because you see there's a cross and there's a dove all over the Star of David. It's
Okay.
a
I
symbol.
apologize. I apologize. I don't have my glasses on. I
It's
apologize.
kind of
Okay.
hard to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And second thing, I was really I've been to Israel 3 times so far, and I went there to visit my friend Amir. I used to be an old school punk rock kid, and first thing, I have a fundamental belief that man doesn't own land, and I'm not a flag worshiper. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
I'm not some. Even though I did serve in the Navy, once I got out of the Navy, I said, fuck flags. I'm done with the whole saluting of the flag. I'm done with the whole. I'm just not about. I did a complete 360 when it came to my beliefs of like saluting flags and all this other bullshit.
Okay.
Because of the shit I saw, the shit they made me like go through.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to. I've been to several different protests. I'm a protester. You could say that I'm somewhat progressive, left leaning kind of guy. Okay, but I have a friend named Amir who actually used to live with me back in the '90s. He was originally from Syria.
Okay.
He was a Jewish kid who moved to Philadelphia, where I'm from, because his mother, his father, and his 2 brothers were unalived because he was Jewish.
Wow,
Uh,
that sucks.
yeah, big time. So he came to Philadelphia to live with his uncle, and we used to run around, listen to Jello Biafra and the Dead Kennedys and skateboard, and we used to beat up Yahtzees, the skate punk type kids. You know what I mean? And
Did
we
you also
remained
listen to Did you listen to Butthole Surfers?
butthole surfers, yeah.
Yeah,
And we used to listen to Dead Milkmen. We used to listen to Bad Religion. You know,
yeah, yeah.
you know, kind of guys. So and further, I still have the inner heart that nobody owns land. When we dead, we get buried in land. You know what I mean? And the dumbest thing in the world, we should all share land. You know what I mean? That's my basic philosophy.
What about, okay, so here's a question for you. So we know
Yeah,
that prior to, in the modern era, there was very little called the nation state until the recent centuries. We know that,
yeah,
for example, like Syria was called the Assyrian territory. There
yeah,
was no Iraq, there was no Iran. It was considered Persian
definitely.
territory. There was the Egyptian Empire. So
Hmm.
here's a question for everybody listening right now. The nation state is a very new thing with like hardcore nationalism and people saying like, I personally believe, this is me, I'm an outlier. I don't believe that humans own anything. I think we're all just kind of here. We all exist.
Yeah,
And yes, we've delineated this artificial construct called private property and ownership in these nation states. But in reality, there's just, I mean, if you walk right now down most places in nature, if it's from one country to the next, nature doesn't have like a wall. It doesn't like have a
yeah,
line on it
man-made
that says,
borders.
this place. It's all man-made, and in some places, humans have created the physical
Yeah,
barriers. But really, I mean, this is an absurd concept if you think about it. I mean,
it is
we are
very
a
absurd.
being that shares a planet with other beings, and we're part of a natural set of systems, and we've
Yeah.
created these unnatural
And
barriers
it's
and
obscene. And it's
structures.
obscene for young men to die over these man-made borders. And like, I think this whole Middle Eastern thing is very obscene. And like, to die over, like, and religion is an object of control. And
Yeah.
like, I became a Christian not because of a Bible, not because of a church. I became because I have a personal relationship with Christ. That's about it. You know what I mean? Like, I can throw Christianity. I can throw Catholicism out of the window, and I still have a personal relationship with Christ. That's how I feel. That's personally, you know what I mean. I just
How did you,
express,
if you don't, can you mind sharing with the audience? I mean, I grew up in a Christian, I guess, home in
yeah,
America, and I went to church for, I don't know,
hmm
maybe till I was 14 or 15, and I still go back once in a while, like for Christmas Eve with family and stuff. But how did you come to you got that firm belief, or like you said, relationship with this particular entity that you connect with?
this is man. I'm going to tell you something. I was an atheist for years. When especially during my like punk rock and everything else type thing,
Uh-huh.
and I became a massive alcoholic, and I did drugs, and then I went into the service to get away from it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I tried to run away from my demons by joining the military, and I did 6.5 years. And guess what? It followed me into the military. I started drinking while I was in the military,
Yeah.
and when I got out of the military, it followed me back. And my attitude, but at least I left the military with what you called honorable discharge. And I was shocked with that. So I I just picked up my guitar and I started doing like I just started wandering for a while, and then next thing you know, man, I got to tell you, you might call it a supernatural experience. I call it the Holy Spirit. It just hit me, and
Okay.
I just put it all down. I walked into a church and I just unburdened myself and I stopped. And next thing you know, I just did another 360, and now I'm married, 3 kids. My essence of who I am hasn't changed. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. That's a bigger history. What I mean is, in terms of making the connection, you said you have a relationship with Jesus
Mhm.
Christ. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
So what
definitely.
there was a point in time when you said you didn't. What changed so that you did? What got you to the place where you now feel the way you feel? Like, was it a moment? Was it a process?
Well, guess what? Once I put everything down, man, I just surrendered myself to Christ, man. I gotta say it. You know what I mean? I just said, I'm done. I'm done being self-destructive. I'm done. You know what I mean? Like what I was doing didn't work anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Let's here. So my question is to others in the audience. So if anybody here practices either Christianity or Judaism or something other than that, or maybe even Islam, I always wonder like what got somebody, if it was their upbringing or if it was just what they've been told since birth, or is it something they came to through struggle? Like sounds like this person's story was one of transitioning from things that were not healthy to things that were quote unquote more healthy. Let's do this. Thanks for sharing that, Mr. Horse. I want to give Federico a chance to come in. Federico, how
all
you
right.
doing?
Oh, I was wondering if I could ask him a quick question.
Yeah, hey Chip.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's do this. Let me let Federico, then we'll bring you back.
no, no, no. I'll come back later. I'm
Can
listening.
I
I'm getting a feel of the argument. Uh,
Okay.
just I'll
can I
come
ask
back.
Mr. House a question?
Yeah,
Great
I tell you
question.
what, real quick, Jake, if it's quick, it's got to be quick though. We have other guests.
Yeah, real quick, Mr. House. If Israel was called Palestine, would you have visited it 3 times?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, that's all.
I'm
That's all. No, I
Very cool.
appreciate
That's
that. I
good.
appreciate your honesty. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. So let's get back to the main question here. By the way, somebody in the comments earlier, I just want to make sure we don't forget to talk about this. So somebody, if we don't talk about it, please remind me. So if somebody says, I was enjoying your lives until you reposted a video that questioned the moon landings. So if you don't know about me, for those of you who are newer, you probably do. I like to question everything, not for the sake of being sort of silly or stupid. I have trouble with other subjects like flat Earth. I don't know how to, but there are some legitimate questions about that particular issue that are worthy of exploring. And I think when people automatically shut down debate on anything, listen, there's some legitimate arguments by people who claim that a lot of this. Let me just give you one last point on that one before we go, and we'll go into it later. NASA claims, and just listen to this. NASA claims that they quote lost the technology that allowed us to go to the moon. Let me say that again. NASA claims that they, quote, lost the technology that allowed the United States to go to the moon. Now, if you believe that, I got some bridge I want to sell you. That just doesn't sound right. What kind of a government is it that all that tech in the 1960s, quote unquote, would lose it? Are you kidding me? So that in of itself is enough to kind of take a second look. But anyway, I don't know. These are all questions. Okay, there was
No,
someone else that was trying to come in that was pro-Israel, but I don't know if we want to talk about that right now, but that's a whole different subject. I want to stick to this thing about does Israel have the right to exist? There was somebody that was coming in and they bailed. She would have come in, but I really want to hear somebody who's pro-Israel come up and share their views on this.
well. I am but I am pro-Israel. I want you to know.
Okay, what's the reason behind your support of Israel? What motivates you?
Well, my friend Amir, right, when
Uh-huh.
he got of age, he moved to Israel, right?
Okay.
Because he moved from Philadelphia to Israel because he didn't have like Philadelphia. He wanted a citizenship because he didn't have United States citizenship, and Israel gave him citizenship. There, he actually married an Israeli. Now he has family from his Syrian, because Syria. Well, he couldn't go back to Syria because his family was killed in Syria, and he moved to Israel, where he got citizenship. And he
Okay.
married Israeli and everything else. He found a
But why?
home.
Why do you? Are you supported only because of your friends, or do you have reasons?
Wait, and then that's why I started visiting Israel, and I saw the families, these Jewish families in Israel, and how they exist, and like it was remarkable. It was remarkable how they. It was just how their culture just vibe. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? It's like if being an African American man, like I wish, I had a Wakanda like that, I was like, wow, you know?
One could argue that
Is
the
is
Palestine
Omar
and the
is
Roman era
is
was
Omar
based upon the
Jewish?
citizens, but they hold on a sec,
Amir, yeah, she's
real quick,
Jewish.
hold on one sec. So one could argue that the Romans had had a pretty good citizen vibe if they visited Rome, but they enslaved and destroyed so many other people in the process. Is it
True.
justifiable for one culture to have a benefit at the expense of another?
Well, Amir is Arab, and he wasn't. He actually married an Israeli. He did. He had a great. No one. He's having an incredible life.
Well, did you go to the occupied territories, or did you just go to "quote unquote" the state of Israel?
I went to State of Israel. I didn't know anything about the occupied territory. I didn't know
Okay,
anything about the West Bank or anything
would
like
it
that.
would it be fair to juxtapose the vibe that you felt when you visited Israel with your with possibility understanding the vibe in the other parts that were occupied by the state?
I knew nothing about Gaza, or I didn't go anywhere near Gaza. Um, these are the things that wake me up when October 7th happened. I was clueless about that area.
Yeah. Okay. So was I. I first learned about this when I was 21, and I didn't know anything. So I understand how that goes. So now that you've learned a little more, has your stance changed at all based on what you've learned, or is it still the same?
Well, I went to my friend Amir because he lives there, and he told me that he's against all that, and he has a vote, and he lives in the democracy, and he's been protesting that in his country. And change happens through a democracy, through the people in the democracy. You know what I mean? Just like change happened in the United States. Like, so he said, don't blame the Israelis for the things of it. Like, we're working on that change. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
he said he hates Netanyahu. He hates the government. Like, even though he has he worked in because he was in the IDF. His son's in the IDF, right? Because he loves his country.
Let's see. Let's suppose this one last thing, and I'm going to let somebody else jump in. I think Molotok was next, if Federico's ready. Okay, so I know that a lot of people are putting emphasis on the Netanyahu government. I think rightly so. A lot of Israelis are protesting against that government. But I think what many people aren't focused on, which is equally reasonable to say and to acknowledge, is that over the last, since 1967, every successive Israeli prime minister and government has continued to expand the settlements in the West Bank. Doesn't
Yes.
matter if they're central, doesn't matter if they're liberal, doesn't matter if they're conservative or ultra conservative like this one. So, given that every single country in the world and the UN condemns these as illegal settlements, as the theft of Palestinian land, how do you juxtapose your support and the democratic process? Because none of the quote democratic processes have been able to slow the illegal expansion of settlements.
Well, you can say the same thing about the United States in the way it treated up into the 1960s. You know what I mean? When it came to the civil rights movement, you know what I mean? Like, until the movement happens, you know what I mean? Like, it has to have a catalyst until the situation happens. Maybe this is the catalyst, then it can be
I
effective.
hope so.
You know what I mean? Like,
I hope you're right. Okay, let's do this.
we were.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point you raised. I want to credit that. Let's
That's
fingers
his.
crossed. Fingers. Just 1 second. Fingers crossed. This is a catalyst. I need to let Molotok go quick, Freddie. Then we'll come back to you or Federico. Um, let's hope this is a catalyst. I think for a lot of people around the world, this has been a big wake up, which is awesome. And I think that more and more people are feeling the anguish and the frustration that we, the people in our democracy, have not been able to, with any other means we've tried, haven't been able to stop the lawmakers from doing things that we find reprehensible, like funding this monstrosity and providing the political cover at the UN as military support and the this is hard to take for the average person who's like, what? How can this be possible? So, but maybe there is an awakening, an epiphany coming that will change this politically. I sure hope so. Okay, is it pronounced Molotov?
Yeah, it's Molotov.
Molotov, welcome.
Thank you. Do you want me to continue with that topic, or do you want to talk about something?
You can talk to whatever you'd like to talk to if you want to put in your 2 cents on this or something else that's on your mind.
Yeah, sure. So I guess when you talk about there's an awakening with this issue, obviously you're referencing the conditions of places like Gaza and West Bank and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess how does that weigh in with groups like Hamas that do solely target civilians, Not
Well,
solely. I take that back. I
yeah,
mean,
that's a little overbearing.
they
Yeah,
talk they target
yeah.
civilians directly. In conjunction with how does that? I mean, because obviously the people in Palestine are suffering, and they suffer for a multitude of reasons. One of them being Israel and their policies. But
Hmm.
also the groups that are overseeing those territories, as it was delegated during after different conflicts, right? Um, so do you think that with this awakening, it means we should also get rid of a group like Hamas and Hamas?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a fair question to ask. First of all, let's talk about the two different territories. We know that there was a big political split between the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and Gaza. It used to rule both. And of course, there was a violent sort of transition of power where unfortunately a lot of people from the PA were tossed off of buildings, which was pretty disgusting. So, but this happens all the time. There are violent political disagreements in many countries. So let's look at it as a whole. So what we refer to loosely as Palestine is a combination of the Palestinian Authority and then, of course, in Gaza, it's Hamas. Remember, half people that live in Gaza Strip weren't even alive when H Group was voted into power in 2006. And in
Right,
addition,
because
a lot of
they
people
have a
don't
high
know this
birth
either.
rate. Right.
Uh,
Okay.
Benjamin Netanyahu very, very outspokenly and vocally said that if we want to prevent a Palestinian state, the most important thing we need to do is to fund and support Hamas. So it's sort of like a divide and conquer strategy. Now, they didn't literally take their own money, but they did allow money to flow from Qatar that otherwise wouldn't through back channels of cash. So that basically allowed the H Group to build up their weaponry and their reserves and give them the opportunity to have a robust enough military element to be able to take on an attack like they did on the 7th. So the question I think Israelis have to ask themselves is what in the hell is an Israeli leadership group doing propping up what they vocally claim as a T word at the same time trying to sow division among the political aspects of Palestinian society?
Right. Of course. So, I mean, as you stated, there has been violent political conflict in those territories. Where there was a group before, Hamas, and Hamas was brought in to ultimately, have the role of overseeing, Gaza, right, so that they could potentially flourish and develop democracy. So that was the intent, when they did first start, providing funding and propping them up the way that you said. But obviously, for years going back to before the second intifada, I mean, we see that that was not what they wanted, was to prop them up, because obviously, as we saw in the second intifada at the least, right, there were, self-unaliving bombings, there were, I mean, it was a mess, so it was all, coming down from that group. So I don't think it's like, I don't think it's fair to ask that question in that way, to say like, oh, they were propping up this whole time, to not have a Palestinian state. Yes, I think that, Netanyahu, while, before October 7th, he was, we'll say publicly, like saying on TV that he was for two state, but, I disagree with Netanyahu entirely. I do believe that he wants a state. And, but again, his goal, at least outwardly, was that, and I think that once you start that kind of violence, that you agree, targets civilians directly in Israel, it's very hard to prop up a group like that.
Well, that's a fair thing to say. So if I understand what your logic is, if a military force specifically and purposely targets civilians, that they should no longer be allowed to exist, they should be taken out of power. Is that right?
So that is not even close to anything that I was touching on. It was in
I'm
reference to
sorry.
your comment about
Say it again. Did you say that you thought that the H
yeah,
group,
so that
because
was
it's
that was not
targeted
at all
civilians?
in reference that was not at all what I was saying. My
Oh,
commentary
okay.
was based on your remark about propping up Hamas, and I was citing the civilian targeting component as a reason why they would not, try to prop up Hamas.
Well, I mean, hold on. You either do or you don't do that. It's obviously from the historical record.
So,
Just about to say
I,
that,
I
Chip.
got it.
I mean, I'm kind of
Hold on.
confused right now.
Hold on, guys. We'll talk. If you're going to make a statement, then just give me a chance to reply, and then I'll pause for you to make one back. So a couple seconds ago, you said that you were worried about a group that targets civilians purposely, that has to be dealt with. So I don't disagree with that. And then the second thing you said is that they wouldn't support them if they did go after civilians. That's not true. They have been supporting them. They've been trying to stock and arm them, not so much because they want them to go after Israeli civilians per se, but they know that with a fragmented political front, that it's less likely the Palestinians will have the power and capability. Because when people are fighting each other, internally, they have no chance of moving ahead in solidarity. So I'm not. You're
Chip,
kind of
Chip.
hedging a lot. So what are you trying to say?
Listen, so I said very directly what I meant to say and what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Would you like me to say it again?
Well,
Because nothing that you said just now is what I was saying. So if maybe
Okay.
you'd like me to repeat it, I can.
Why don't you clarify? Yeah, go ahead and clarify.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So as I stated, these politically driven, violent conflicts within the territories, i.e., the transition of power and oversight within Gaza to Hamas, right? Israel, helping prop up Hamas, as I stated before, in an attempt to introduce democracy and have, something more secure within the area. Okay. And then I said, that's what I said in the beginning. And
I don't remember you saying that at all.
anyone want to chime in here? Because that's exactly what I said.
I didn't hear you say the word about introduce
I
democracy.
did not hear it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to lie or grab
So
anybody's
that's
side, but I didn't hear it.
that's exactly what I said. Okay. If
So
anyone's
Molotow,
recording this, they can share it back to you. They can share it
One
back
second,
to
guys.
you.
Hold on. So, first of all, these are recorded. So one thing I can invite everybody to do is just not that it's this big of a deal, but in other words, a lot of times what happens is, and this happens to everybody, sometimes you're thinking something in your head, you're discussing something, you think you've relayed a concept, but it hasn't come out of your mouth.
Okay.
Those words did not come out of your mouth, really. That's all.
So look, when you go,
I must have lost my mind and
Hold on.
when you
Go
go
ahead,
back
Molotow, go ahead.
when you go back and watch the recording, you'll see I said it the first time. All right. So anyway, trying to introduce.
So Molotow, I don't know if you want to put a wager on that, or you want to wager on that. You happen to make a very sizable wager because I am a very good listener.
Okay, great. So anyway, so they were trying to.
Yes or no question. Would you like to put a wager on that? I'm a very good listener.
No, I don't need to, but
Okay, well then why don't you just take my word for it that you didn't say those things rather than trying to talk down. Now you're trying to summarize your point, so why don't you go ahead and do that instead? That'd be good.
Okay, that sounds great, Chip. Thanks. Anyway, so they're trying to introduce democracy by introducing a new group, i.e. Hamas, right? Hamas ultimately they were not doing what Israel wanted them to do, introduce democracy and provide both a secure, Gaza and, border for Israel. Okay. And then that's when I started talking about the targeting civilians component, which is like evidence as to why no one would want to prop up a group that is targeting civilians. So what I'm saying, what I said was, in the beginning they were trying to prop them up, as to give an opportunity for democracy and growth within, that territory, and then it fell to shit. Chip, you can't hear you.
You're muted, Chip.
Let me respond to that really quickly, please. Okay, and then I'm going to speak to the argument, not the person. Okay, so let's say someone else came in and said that, not be you. I disagree directly with what you're saying. No one had the effort to try to, quote, create and spread democracy in that region. There was an election that was held in 2006. It's the only one that's been held in recent memory. And in that case, about 71% of the population voted for the H group. Of those people who voted, though, it's about 41% of the current society. About 58% weren't alive then. That's a big deal. So for people to make the claim that they support them, it's not true. Obviously,
So that's not what I was saying.
Hold on. Listen, I'm gonna go with your words. You said they were trying to spread democracy in the region or prop up democracy. You said that they wouldn't support, quote unquote, a group that targets civilians. Those are your words as far. Listen, if that's not what you're saying, that's what I'm hearing you say. Hold on a second. Now, the reason why I'm telling you that's not correct is we have direct contradictory evidence that there is a specific effort, not by everybody in Israel, but by some leaders, to purposely provide support to a group that, yes, attacks civilians. And they know they were going to do that, but they did it because the greater good will be served by having political division, and they'd be easy to divide and conquer. Do you disagree with that?
You cut out the last part. What did you say right before divide and conquer?
The purpose behind doing that was not to foster the unaliving of civilians, which they probably knew they would use some of those arms to harm, to do things they typically do, but that the greater good would be served from their perspective by dividing and conquering them politically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I again, when you prop up a group, to become to fall into the leadership, I mean, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to control it, but it doesn't negate the fact that when they started doing bus bombings, they don't want any part of it anymore. I mean, the thing.
Well, when did those things occur? Historically, when those things occurred and when they haven't occurred since?
So I'm not saying since, I'm saying then, and then would have been
No, that's
Then
what I'm
when it
saying.
like
You know
2004,
historically when
2005,
do you know historically when those events took place?
2004, 2005.
No, a lot earlier.
The bus bombings? No, there was I think three in a short period of time in 2004.
The standard practice of the
So
PLO.
can you speak to that? That there
Well,
was like three.
I will say this before I verify that. I want to look that up. I don't want to make a statement because I'm not exactly
That's all
certain.
right. No problem.
Hey,
To
Chip, how
be
you
fair.
doing, Chip? How you doing? Molotov
Okay.
is dragging the conversation somewhere else. I would like to address.
So I'm really not trying to drag it anywhere. I'm trying to stay on
That's
topic with
okay.
Chip.
I
It's okay.
understand. Yeah,
Let's give Frederick a chance. We'll
yeah,
circle
yeah,
back.
yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I like to address Mr. Horse. Mr. Horse,
Yes.
how are you, buddy?
How you doing?
I heard you're a Catholic.
Yes, I am.
Yes, sir. I lived in Rome, right behind the Vatican City.
I've been to Rome.
Yes, beautiful city, isn't it?
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Some part of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to live I used to live behind the Vatican City. You know that
Yeah.
the Capella Sistina, and I was married to a Catholic lady.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm a Muslim. That
Hey.
yeah, yeah, and I would wake her up every Sunday and take her to church.
Excellent. Excellent.
Sure. So, but the conversation about Israel, I've had it too many times.
Yes.
Conversations with the just I'm trying to enlighten you about some stuff, because you know
Okay.
the Catholic believe that the snake comes to the land of Israel, and then after that the Messiah will come, right?
I'm,
Okay, that's basically the practice that
yeah.
that the big snake will come to the state of Israel, and it will turn, and a dark cloud comes in, then the Messiah comes out. To make a story short, I had this conversation with too much noise. Somebody's making too much noise.
Sorry, that's not Catholic. That's the Bible.
The Bible. Well, I mean, that's what I heard from multiple priests in Rome,
That's from
Catholics.
Revelations, not
Okay,
Yeah.
Catholic.
so that you believe in that
Yeah.
too, Terry, right?
Of course I do.
Okay. But the idea is, where was mentioned in the Bible that in 1948 they're gonna form a state called Israel? It's not mentioned,
Okay.
right?
It's not from 1948.
So yeah, but it wasn't mentioned that in 1948 they will form a state of Israel.
Because in 1200 BC, in the Egyptian stele,
Okay.
Israel.
Okay. Israel. I'm not gonna argue the names Palestine or Israel with anyone, but I'm gonna call it the Holy Land.
No, because the Israelites came to.
Absolutely, they came to Jerusalem. I'm gonna say Jerusalem, and
No, they came to Judah.
the Judah and
Land of
Samaria.
Judah.
And
Yeah.
okay, all right. When I agree.
Guys, do not want to get into a historical
No.
conversation about the 15 trillion years ago.
No,
Let's
no,
just
no,
not do
no,
that.
no,
Okay?
no, no. It's a little
So
bit
Terry, hold on a
relevant.
second. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a little bit relevant. Okay. So, but the people that came there and lived there, and then some of them converted to Christianity, and some of them converted to Judaism, right? To
Yeah.
Islam, correct? And
Correct.
that's when all three lived on. So the argument I've heard that supposedly that snake that came in place, it came in 1948, because if you look in Islam, we believe Jesus Christ as the Messiah of God, and we believe he will return to earth. Okay?
Yes, as a
Now,
prophet, but you believe him to be a prophet.
one second. Yeah, one second. We believe he's coming back. I don't like, it doesn't matter what we believe. We believe that he will come back and we will follow him. He will guide us to God. Correct?
Yes, but as a prophet, we believe him as a God. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It doesn't matter who, but we both believe that we're gonna follow him to God. He's gonna guide us to God, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, in your opinion, over here, somebody that renounces Jesus Christ, that it was mentioned in the Bible that some people will renounce Jesus Christ, and some people will follow him to guide them to God. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So over here, if you look around you, just critical thinking, who does renounce Jesus and who follows Jesus? And you would know who's
Well, as a Christian, I'm going to tell you this. As a Christian, we're taught to love everyone, no
absolutely.
matter. Yeah. And as I say this, as someone who feels this thing called the Holy Spirit, I don't get into all this stuff like that. I sit back. I don't believe in this holy as a holy war or stuff like that. I sit back and
I'm sorry, but if you're not a Christian, because what's happening now
Terry,
is
just a second. Let him finish his sentence, please.
I don't look at it as a holy war. I look at it as people being hurt and people being as war as an atrocity, and I just want the suffering of people, and I want.
I'm sorry. It's to
So
fulfill
at this,
prophecy.
Terry, please. So at this point, you shouldn't be in Israel. You should be pro-life. Neither
I am
way.
pro-life. I'm
Okay.
pro-life on both ends.
Yeah.
On
But
both
the thing
ends.
is,
I have a and I cry for the people of Gaza. I cry for the people of Gaza, and I cry for the people of Israel. I pray for both people. I really do.
I can believe. I do believe you that you do that. I really do believe you.
And
But one more question. Do
yeah.
you think that if Jesus Christ come right back right now on earth and looks what's happening in his holy land, what part do you think he would side to?
He will side with the people,
What
not the
people?
governments.
What people? What people? Who's getting the
All
gist?
people. He will look at the hearts of individuals, not the people, not the government. That's what I think. I don't think he will sit back and say, okay. I don't think he will sit back and say, okay, this is. I'll be on these people or these people. That hearts of the individual, because that's what he does.
Can I answer?
And he will look in the hearts of the individual. That's how I feel. You know.
No, God will always side with Israel. It's written.
Let's do this, guy. Let's give us.
That's how I believe. He
Real
looks in
quick,
the
Terry,
heart
hold
of
on.
his
Before
children.
Terry comes in, real quick, hold on, Freddie. Before Terry comes in, we have that Yemeni, and then we'll go back to Terry, then we'll come up to Fred. Okay? Sorry, James, then Fred. Go ahead, please.
Well, I would like to talk too, Chip. Whenever you want. It's your life.
Who said? Yeah, you're next. That's what I just said. That one Yemeni, you're up.
And I have one more point for Molotov. Molotov, you know that.
Hold on, Federico. We got to give some folks some time. I'll come back to you, though. I
So,
promise.
Chip, can I just tell you one quick thing? Chip,
That Yemeni, no, Molotov. We got to give other people a chance. That Yemeni, it's your turn. Are you there? That one Yemeni. There you go.
I just want to ask you a question because I want the people to hear your answer. Do you believe in a two-state solution? And I already know the answer. I kind of do. But I want you to answer it for me, and I want everyone to hear it, and I want to know why you believe what you believe. Can you do that for me, please, if you don't mind?
I'll give you the response that I try to give to be fair. So first of all, it's not my place to make the choice, but in terms of what I think is feasible, I don't think either are feasible right now. I think what would be ideal would be for the pre-1967 borders to be restored, because a lot of people, including the entire world, think that that's illegally taken territory, although the Israelis make the argument it was a defensive war. I think the H group agrees. The H group has said in their 2017 charter that they would be willing to accept the same thing as an outcome, while they still don't want to recognize what they refer to as the Zionist entity. Their words, not mine. That would be fair, at least somewhat fair. It's not historically just because of what happened in 48, but I think it's politically practical from their point of view. It's not geographically practical because of the settlements. So that leaves you with the only other option, which will be a one-state solution, whether you call it Israel, whether you call it ABC, and therefore everybody would have democratic representation. The problem from the Israeli standpoint is that would give an immediate democratic majority to non-Jews, which they don't want that either, because the whole point of their existence was based on a Jewish ethno-state. So it leaves us in this predicament where there's really not a good viable option at the moment, And I don't think there will be one until the power dynamics shift, where the U.S. no longer supports Israel, the money isn't there, and there's some military intervention that forces the change. That's my best guess.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you, and your words do matter. I don't know who told you that they don't. I know that we don't work. We both of us. I'm Yemeni. I don't call the shots. None of us do. But our words, and then especially coming from a non-Muslim, a non-Arab man like you, I don't know if you know this, Chip, but it holds a lot of weight coming from you, the more than me, and I'm Arab. But he's saying it's like, oh, that's normal. You know, he's Arab. He's saying he's speaking up for his people.
Yeah.
But you, it's not. You're not speaking up for. You're just speaking for what's right. You're pro humanity before you're pro anything. Honestly, my wife, she's like, wow, why don't you just marry the guy since you talk about him so much? Because I tell her so much, babe. I learned so much from this guy. You people don't know. I literally, it's like the amount of knowledge I learned from you in the last few months. It's like where you've been all my life. So I don't want to hold up anybody's time. Everyone's more than welcome to speak. I'm gonna stop talking now. I appreciate you. I'll still be on if you would like. If you want me to drop down, I'll drop down. It's whatever you want, Chip.
Yeah, we have space right now. Hang tight. If I have to cycle anybody, I'll let you know. Okay, I think the next
Sounds
person
good.
to
Cool
go.
beans.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the nice words. I think it was going to be James and then Freddie. Go ahead, please, James, if you're ready.
How you doing, Chip?
Okay, how about yourself?
I'm fine. Lord have mercy, you just gave another. I can't help but to back him up on what you just said just then. I know you ain't trying to get into no religious discussion. Me neither. I'm trying to find a solution. But this the question you know what I'm saying? That ain't no solution. You know, if you think God just gonna come down the sky and just pick your side for GP, then I don't think that's gonna happen. But do you think just cause Iran did they little display or something, is that gonna be enough deterrent for us to just tell Israel to just really calm down? Or do you think they're gonna make Israel actually escalate even more?
Are you talking about the attack that Iran just levied with the drones and the missiles and
Yeah.
stuff? Everyone is wondering right now what the response, if any, will be. The very interesting development, by the way, and I've not verified this independently, but there was a video today that said that the Russians have publicly stated, again, I have not verified this, that if Israel chooses to retaliate for what just happened recently, that they will participate in the next response to Israeli activities. That's a pretty big deal, if it's true. But here's the thing. Remember that Israel is trying to not put into context what it chose to do to the Iranian consulate in Syria. It's kind of acting as if they had every
Thank
right
you.
to do that. And then all of a sudden, if anybody chooses to do anything back, the other thing is, if you don't know, the Iranians let the Israelis and the Americans know well in advance of what was going to happen,
Yeah.
where, when, and how, and there were no civilian targets struck.
I
The
know.
only munitions were aimed at military locations, unlike the Israelis, which target all sorts of civilian areas.
Anybody.
Notice five Iranian officials were unalived and 7 Syrian civilians were unalived on the ground. So, Israel just has a history of doing things the way it chooses to do them, and it thinks that it should be able to do what it wants, but nobody else should have the right to do anything in return to what it does. And I think that's a little bit of a double standard, to say the least.
I know I seen them on Al Jazeera gonna talk about we really ain't checked into the consulate yet. I said y'all ain't checked into it and y'all did it.
Yeah, it's a little
You
silly.
know?
Yeah. So, again, I hope it doesn't escalate. Obviously, the last thing I think that anybody on the American side, or I can speak for myself, I don't want to see a regional war. Russia, believe it or not, and this is kind of scary, Russia has recently just reestablished their draft. And they probably wouldn't be doing that. It's not because they're having trouble meeting the requirements for Ukraine or Syria. It's probably because they're getting ready for what they perceive to be the potential for a broader conflict with Iran being drawn in. And that's not good. That's not good.
So okay, I'm gonna ask you this one more, Chip, and I'm gonna let the panel roll with it. But okay, do you think it even matters if we even help Israel at this point? Because I don't think Israel could survive by itself. But it seems like they just trying to push the issue like we just gonna follow them. If we don't follow them, do you think the American people might just change their mind once they seeing Israel get beat up?
Well, remember, the public, I think public perception has shifted dramatically
Me
against
too.
Israel. There's still a substantial portion that does support Israel, though. Let's face it, it's been a long-standing relationship. So even though there's been a drastic shift, it was already a really out of control balance for Israel. So it's chipped away at that. I think it's something like close to 6 in 10 people in America still support Israel, which, I think is shifting, especially among the younger generation. Those numbers are probably a lot more
Yeah.
against Israel than
Don't
for
nobody
the
want the war. They just say they like Israel.
But to answer your question about support, the United States government is highly influenced by different lobbying entities, industry, the military industrial complex, as well as special interest groups like AIPAC and others. So right now, the political climate is such that no sitting politician can really get away with being too overly anti-Israel at the moment. Now, the 2024 election cycle may be something that shakes up, and eventually the power of AIPAC may diminish. But right now, most politicians don't have political.
But we couldn't back out that even if we wanted to.
Well, AIPAC has the money and power right now to basically eliminate anybody or to knock them out of power if they do. So politics is about reality, and you can't do anything to help your constituents or your special interest if you are in office. So their number one job is to survive, and that's what they have to do right now to survive, which means that the United States support is relatively fixed, which is pretty uncomfortable for many of us who want to see a change. But that's the reality.
You can mute me.
Okay, thanks for being here, James. I appreciate your questions. Okay, I think that Freddie wanted to say something, and then we'll go down to Danzaman and King Cartman, and then we'll go back through the others.
Talking to me?
No, Freddie. Did Freddie want to say anything? If not, I can go to Danzaman. Did you want to say something, Freddie?
Just a few bullet points based on what everyone was saying right now, and then I will drop so you can bring some more people in. And I'll listen. I want to hear what people have to say about this. First of all, remember about the terrorist group. I just won't. I'm not condoning what they're doing. Absolutely not. Just like I don't condone what Israel is doing either for the past 75 years. However, if I were living in Palestine, in Gaza, you bet your ass I would resist. And I don't think people realize what's been going on for the past 75 years over there. I don't think they have a clue how they've been brutalized for 75 years. So on that note, on to the next one. I'm tired of people bringing up, oh, it was the Israelites 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years. In that case, why wasn't it called Palestine back then? Why didn't they make it Palestine in Israel? Why didn't they make it Israel in the 1800s, in the 1700s, in the 1500s? Why now? Why now? And we all know why now. It had to do with World War II, et cetera, et cetera. So this notion that Judea and Israelites were all, the names of people and families that all existed back 3,000 years ago, I think is a ridiculous argument. Because why wasn't it called Israel in 1940, in 1930? Why didn't they make it Israel back then? So we all know why. I want to bring something up with Mr. Horse. I don't think he realized what he said, or I don't know if anyone realized what he said. He said his friend who lived here in the United States was able to go to Israel and gain citizenship. You think, can a Palestinian do that who's indigenous to that land? Absolutely not. The guy never stepped foot in Israel. All of a sudden he moved there. He probably got subsidized housing in a settlement area as well. And now he's got free education and he's got free health care if he wants it. But the indigenous people get absolutely nothing. Two more quick points.
Okay.
Actually, that's it.
Okay.
But I want people to open up their King James Bible, especially Mr. Horse. Look up the King James Bible and see what it says in the map in the King James Bible. It says Palestine on it. Okay? So this whole notion that Israel deserved it, God gave it to them, blah, blah, it's all bullshit. It all came from World War II. The European Jews didn't want to live there anymore, and they came to a plot of land that was vibrant. It existed. It was called Palestine. Yes, it was a British mandate. I get it. You're going to split hairs with that. It was never called Palestine because it was a British mandate, but it was. It had their own currency. They had their own bank. They had their own airport. They had their own marketplace. They had schools. They had colleges. You name it, they had it, and it was taken over and stolen. Yeah. Just like it was stolen here in the United States from the indigenous Indians. So I'm going to drop. That's all I have to say. I'm curious to hear what
before you drop.
Okay,
I
Sean.
just want you to know, my friend Amir, when October 7th happened, and I'm just going to say this, he had 4 neighbors got killed. I mean, unalived. I don't want to get this thing happen. And unalived on October 7th.
You know what's real? I don't mean to interrupt you, but you know what's really funny?
Wait,
You never talk about the brutalization and the mowing of the lawn and unprovoked bombing of refugee camps, homes, brutalization.
I do not.
Well, then why October
Don't.
7th? Why does everyone want to focus only on October 7th and
No,
not
no,
ask?
wait. I do. Wait, you heard me say exactly how I feel about the bombing of Gaza. And I do not approve of what the Israeli government does over there. I do not approve of that at all. I am not
He
that
doesn't
type of
watch your
person.
live.
All right?
Hold on, James.
I do not approve, but I say you're glazing over what I just said about 3 of his neighbors by Hamas, okay? And you just said you don't see them as a terrorist organization. I mean, the H group, okay? And they were SA, his neighbor, okay? And
So were tens of
and
thousands.
that's not the word. SA is not. It's not. Freedom fighters do not SA, okay?
Hold on, everybody, real quick. So this is a really important point to make to the audience. Just let me have everybody on mute for a second. So for those of you who don't know, I've been trying to research the 7th. I'm just one person, right? But I've really dug hard. I've had probably 24 different people come on the panel and make that same claim, and they've told me they have irrefutable evidence that shows that what was just alleged happened on that day. And so I've asked every single person to send me either to a site or send stuff to me or whatever it may be. I spent about 4.5 hours about a week ago, maybe a little less, going through 285 separate videos on a thread on Telegram where someone told me there was irrefutable proof. And guess what wasn't on there? No proof, none whatsoever. Now, there were a lot of atrocities and towards civilians, granted. And for anybody to say that the H group was guilty, that's not true. I can tell you I've seen a lot of examples, unfortunately, of the H group engaging directly with Israeli civilians. It was disgusting. Grenades, handheld things, all sorts of crazy stuff. It was bad. I didn't see any of the head stuff going on, at least other than one guy being hit near the neck area with a hoe, but it didn't do anything. And I didn't see anything inside of ovens. I didn't see anything inside of people being, set on fire alive. I didn't see any of that stuff. And I didn't see anything about SA. Now, the UN did a report where they said it's likely that it may have occurred based on testimony from Israelis, but they don't have proof that it was systemically used as was alleged by the Israelis. So while I can't deny it, and most people like me who have tried to dig really deep can't deny it outright, we've had enough examples now where different reports have come out and then later been debunked that makes it appear as if, and I'll just use this in general, that the Israeli government has a systemic practice of lying and exaggerating to try to enrage the public and to create the framework within which their brutality can be justified for their response. That's my take. I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that's what appears to be, and many like me. So before you make definitive claims like that, I mean, Mr. Horse, if you literally have the evidence.
That's what he told me. That's what Amir told me.
But everybody in Israel, it's like an echo chamber. I heard it on TV, so it must be true. No one has the evidence. They're saying, I heard this. Everyone knows it happened. Well, what do you mean? We have to have something to chew on, and evidence is evidence is evidence. Either forensic evidence from a doctor showing, whatever the trauma may have been, which is fair, or direct testimony by a victim. That's fair. And we got to make our minds up as to the veracity of that, like they would in court. But absent some of that stuff, it's very hard just to nod our heads and say, yeah, that's very difficult. So when people make those claims, I ask you to be very careful that if you have the evidence to back it up, I'm happy to substantiate it here. But if you don't, I would ask you to at least put a caveat that you heard or it's alleged that.
The other problem is that where are the 40 sets of parents? Where are the grandparents? Saying that this actually happened. It never did happen. It never, ever happened.
Exactly, it never happened. Can I say something?
Let me finish my thought here, because he made a claim that the Hamas horse, if you will. I'm not. I'm telling you right now, what they did was wrong. But if you're not asking the question why they did it, then you're missing the whole point. You went right to chapter 75 and forgot about the previous 74 chapters.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. All right, real quick. I think Donzaman was going to be next. Are you going to drop Freddie? Because I bring up Brenda. I think I was.
Chip, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your input. What I want to do real quickly, everybody, is if you're okay with this, I've been outdoors all day today. I'm really sweaty and nasty, so I wanted to bring up Brenda as a moderator, and if you could please, or whoever I can bring up, and they'll direct traffic like I've been doing. So try to take 2-3 minutes max. Please, everybody else stay muted while the other person, unless they directly address you. Don't fight, but respectfully back and forth if you can. And I'll be back on whenever that finishes. Brenda, are you available to come up as a? Can I invite you up here? If you can put yourself in the box, if you don't mind doing it, Brenda, I'd really appreciate the help just for a little bit while I get cleaned up because I feel
Can I just
nasty.
say one quick thing?
Yeah, but Molotok, we have Danzaman's next,
Really
and
one
then we'll
quick thing.
circle back around. I got to give people a turn who hasn't spoken yet. Danzaman, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm just waiting for people to finish up.
Okay, yeah, it's your turn, please.
We can all agree that we've seen attacks on refugee camps in the news, correct? And I think the biggest problem right now is misinformation and what we see online. So one thing I really wanted to cover is the fact that everybody has this amazing tool at their disposal called Google Earth. And, it's no surprise that people have been saying that Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas in the world. And one thing that's very interesting to me, somebody earlier mentioned bombings of refugee camps. I just want to turn everybody's attention to these so-called refugee camps. If you search up on Google Earth, and I'm not talking about just Googling random stuff.
When you say, just so you know, when you say so-called, can you clarify what you mean by that? Because
So, for example, the Jabalia refugee camp, as it was called, it's actually a city. You can look at what it looks like. There are no tents involved. The image that comes to mind for most people when they look at these articles is tents and people are suffering and living off of supplies. The reality is that this is a very densely populated area, and military operations in this area is very complex. It's not like they're leveling buildings. In fact, strikes are going on in specific apartments and specific buildings involved with rockets. The idea is that, there's a lot of tents around and everybody's picturing Gaza as a suffering area. But if you go on Google Earth and look at satellite pictures of what these cities look like, they're huge. They're densely populated.
Do you mean what they used to look like?
Well, I'm sure in 1948,
I think that's what he
when
means,
refugee
yeah.
camps
I
were
think that's what
settled
you mean,
down.
yeah.
They were tents, as it was
Hold on,
desert
hold on.
at one
Just want
point.
to make sure we're talking about present tense versus past tense. So when you say a camp looks like something, you're making it sound like it still exists. So if it doesn't exist anymore, you can say it looked.
It looks
Yes,
like
but
Palm
the
Springs.
problem is that these camps are now, the names of these cities are still referred to as refugee camp, whatever. In fact,
because
they
they
are
are.
actually just cities.
Hold on, guys.
They've never changed the name of these cities. It's always called a refugee camp.
Do you think what if you had your druthers, how would you reword it so you thought it would be more appropriate?
Well, it wouldn't matter to reword it. The fact is that is what it is called at this time currently. A city is called a refugee camp. So when the news picks up articles of, okay, this refugee camp was attacked, they use it to their advantage so that people in the West read the article and think, okay, well, they've targeted a bunch of tents, and they've targeted an open area with people who are suffering. Well, in reality, what it is there was a target struck inside of a city in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I actually agree 100% with that statement, and here's why. Not because I want to make it look like people are not getting harmed, which they are, but I do agree the word camp, I think in most people's minds means something less built up. If that's what you mean, I think that's a normal impression of people. What I will say this is though, people who have been displaced and crowded into portions of a developed area tend to be they tend to be more scattered and more tightly packed into a place where they're scattered. They're people that have been through horrific life experiences, and they're very densely populated in a very small area, which is why they refer to it as a camp.
And I totally agree with you, but the reality is that if you look at the land across of Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, that's just the reality of how these cities are built. The West Bank is just as dense. Buildings are put up close together, and so is the Israeli, all the Israeli cities. In fact, south of Israel is just desert. There's nothing there. It's not as dispersed as some people think it is. It's a very densely populated chunk of land. And, if there's an operation going on, a military operation going on in a specific area, then of course it's going to seem to us Westerners or wherever we live, where the, urban sprawl are spread apart, it looks insane. But that's just the reality of the land. Everything there is built very densely. In fact,
Yeah.
most of the land is unusable.
Okay, so in other words, here's a fair question to ask. So a lot of people, I think the reason why a lot of people are so, I guess, outraged or angered have shifted their views towards Israel being more one of outrage and shock versus one of support is because they see a lot of images coming through. And whether somebody uses the term refugee camp or densely populated civilian area or municipality with lots of people or whatever, if a bomb comes down or you're saying it's a targeted strike, a lot of people don't look at a 2,000-pound bomb that's not dropped with any guidance as being targeted. When 466 civilians are unalived in a refugee area, densely populated civilian built-up area, and one militant was targeted, people say, well, something's really wrong with a military that'll do that. Do you really think that Israel's gone out of their way to avoid civilian casualties, and that when there are, it's the fault of the Hamas militants who force civilians to stay there, as is claimed, or what do you think about that?
Well, like a lot of what you said is media propaganda. The reality is that people are urged to move out of these densely populated areas, which takes time. It also takes, a lot of effort to get that information out to that specific area. So of course there's casualties, but I just think that we should be very weary of what we read in the media. For us to conclude that Israel is just shooting artillery and rockets here and there is just speculation. It's not, factual.
What
It
now?
is factual.
Let's hold on. Let's give him a sec. This is a good conversation to have. I think this is important because people have different views on this. Like I always like to say, the same thing can happen. Like, let's say that something does fall from the sky and it does destroy some things and a bunch of people die or get injured. That's what happened. And then some say, well, they were notified, there was flyers, there was phone calls, there were texts. We're the only army that does this stuff. And it's unfortunate either that they happen to stay there for whatever reason or that the other people make them stay. That's one way to explain stuff. Now, another one, which is why I think so many people are becoming more angry and outraged, which you can say it's propaganda, but I think what's not propaganda is not, this isn't coming off the media per se, unless you want to talk about the social media. What's happening is people are seeing literal photographs. This TikTok, one of the reasons why I think it's targeted for either suppression or elimination, is because it's a relatively unfiltered avenue for information that normally didn't flow this way in prior conflicts. If you go back to all the previous incursions into Gaza or the West Bank, most of it wasn't visible to the public. And in this instance, a lot of it has been. Now, you're right. Not everybody's going to know ahead of time whether leaflets were dropped or phone calls were made or texts were done. But the appearance is, and I think in so many instances, people are seeing that that's not the case. I know people make the claim that it is always the case. My observation has been that it's rarely the case, unfortunately. I wish they did that. That people are literally mistaken. And whether it's one militant, two militants, the ratio of innocent civilians that are being harmed, the United States has said this. Every other nation has said this, and Israel claims it's justified. But people are seeing otherwise with their own two eyes. I did a video. This is one of the first ones I ever made on TikTok. And it went like this. Do you believe the media, which is the reports that first came out about all the stuff we're seeing right now, or do you believe your own two eyes? And that's been the biggest game changer for this. And I don't know whether it was part of the political calculus of the attacks on the 7th, but it has been one of the biggest shifts in this entire history of this conflict. Because more people are aware of it, of course, because it's all over the news, but people are seeing the actual unedited footage of what's been happening on the ground in ways they've never seen before, which has huge emotional impacts and changes people's views.
Right.
Look, I acknowledge the fact that when we see graphic images online, it gives us an emotional response, and I'm not in any way when I see somebody lose their life, that it's, that it was a reason for them to die. But my point is that we have to look at this conflict almost similar to the way that we watched Fallujah, right? Because at this point we have troops on the ground. Israel has decided to move into a densely populated area. There's fighting from building to building. And the reality of this type of conflict is that people will lose their lives. And, it's Israel's decision to go in a situation of national security and try to get rid of as many missile systems that have been used, and tunnels, and we can all agree that some of these tunnels have been used to kidnap civilians. So whether it's emotionally disturbing for us to see civilians lose their lives or not, this conflict is a matter of national security in Israel's eyes, and their goal here is
Can
not
I
to
say something now?
get rid of the
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
Palestinians.
We have to give people a turn. I think King Cartman hasn't really spoken. I want to just address that. First of all, terminology kind of matters. The munitions that are used to fire air through the air into Israel are rockets. So missiles typically are more sophisticated, more longer range, more potentially with guidance systems. These are glorified bottle rockets. They're larger and they have a much more damaging impact if they are to land. Most of them get interdicted by the Iron Dome system, thankfully for Israelis on the ground, who I don't want to see harmed. Hopefully no one else does. But of all the tens of thousands of these munitions that have ever been fired, I think it's between 6 and 10 human beings on the receiving end of them have perished. If you look back on the other side, as far as the responses that have occurred purportedly for Israel's security against what we've seen as far as the rockets, this is well before 10/7, many thousands of Palestinians have been unalived in Gaza. It's not even close. So this is the argument, again, it's about proportionality, use of force, and is the argument, and this is a question, not a statement, is the argument made by Israel that their existence is being threatened, that the H group has a, quote, genocidal intent with their aspirations to unalive Israelis, Israeli soldiers, Israeli civilians, or even broader, the Jewish people. Is that considered enough of a threat to justify this type of response? The way they've used force, the way they've cleared the landscape, the way they've destroyed the infrastructure, the way that they're continuing to conduct themselves. Some have argued that having a more strategic surgical force that does go through the tunnels, albeit it be very, very casualty ridden, is that a more rational and reasonable way to do it so they don't create this outrage? And again, I don't know how this fits into the long-term dynamics. It may be that that's the better choice for Israel because they don't care about the reverberations internationally from the sanctions and other things that may follow. But if it is a miscalculation and the ICJ does find them guilty, for example, or whatever, some of these crimes, and the world turns on Israel and all the nation states tend to force their will on Israel, it's probably the worst decisions they ever made, even if you support the nation state. That's something to think about. Okay, let's let King Cartman come on, keep the conversation going. And Brenda, just to let you know, Brenda's going to start moderating this in a couple minutes. I got to go shower. Please be respectful of Brenda. She'll moderate the muting and the back and forth. So, okay, she's going to be my agent in my absence. So go ahead, Cartman.
How's everyone doing today?
Fantastic.
Okay, awesome. Well, I am actually a son of two Palestinians. I was born in the United States of America. I lived in Palestine. I will always call it Palestine. I don't claim I don't want to claim that side because I've been subject to the harassment, to the cruelty of Israel as an American Arab. So it's about time the world sees what's really going on. I'm grateful for social media. I'm grateful for TikTok because it's about time. I have a grandfather who was, injured in 1968 by the IDF, where he was in a wheelchair for 3 months. So that's all I have to say about the IDF. My father's father. And every time I travel to Israel or Palestine, I am harassed at the airport. I am held in questioning for 6 hours because apparently me being an American citizen who was born in the States, me not having any kind of like ID or any kind of an ID is called a Hawiyya. You either have a blue ID or you have an orange ID or a green ID. I think it used to be an orange ID for Palestinians. For Palestinians who were born in Jerusalem area, where Al-Quds, My father was from Jerusalem, so he had an Israeli ID. Now, when my father came to the States in 1976, he never renewed it. So, but I'm I don't want to keep rambling on about my treatment, how I was treated, but it's about time the world sees what's going on, because Israel keeps building settlements in the West Bank area illegally, and someone mentioned that somebody from the States was able to get a citizenship in Israel, which to me is disgusting. If I were to ask for that, they would never grant me that, even though I still own property there. I own property in Jerusalem, which was my dad's. My dad's not with us anymore, but you know, the reality is the IDF is dangerous. It's not fair. It's never been fair for Palestinians, and it never will be fair. You know, they preach about two-state solution. That's never going to happen, because it shouldn't be two states. It should be one state. It should be one country. There's a way for everyone to get along, and unfortunately, there's not, because the Israeli Zionist government doesn't want that. They just want us out. Back in the 70s or 60s, if you were a Palestinian born in Jerusalem, they gave you the option to come to America for free. They literally paid for your plane ticket to get you to America, because they wanted less of us there, less Palestinians there.
Wow.
So that's what's happening is the Israeli government never wanted us there. And there's a settlement. They built a settlement right above my mother's house. There's a huge settlement. My mother, she's from the West Bank area. She's from a city called Arura, and there's a settlement right above our house there. Why is it there? I mean, anybody answer the question? Why do they keep building these settlements in the West Bank area? You know why I had to come back to the States in 2001? Because I got caught at a checkpoint, and an IDF soldier punched me in the mouth because I kept telling him I was a minor. And, I kind of, at age 16, I looked like I was 18, so he didn't believe I was a minor. I told him, finally, he found my American passport. He's like, why are you in Israel since 97? I said, well, my father let me stay here. We have property. They told me I had 2 weeks to leave the country. So
Wow.
I got kicked out. I got kicked out of Palestine because I'm an American. But yet you have Europeans who can go to Israel and get a free house in a settlement, and by the way, get weapons. They're allowed to carry weapons and harass Palestine. If you get caught with a slingshot in Palestine, that's 5 years in prison. And it's not like prison in America. It's a really bad prison. I mean, it's just I'm just happy that the world is seeing. And you mentioned the host. Thank you so much, Chip. I thank you so much for having this panel. Thank you for telling the truth. And I'm glad that 6 out of 10 America. You said the support for Israel is kind of winding down, and I'm actually glad it is, because of the way I was treated in Palestine. So I was basically deported from Palestine.
And do you agree with me, King, that Chip, when his words hold like more weight because it's
Hold on one sec, just real quick. We have to let others come in too. So just to let you know, Brenda, this is the order. I want to make sure people know the order. So right now, I believe, Brenda, the order is going to be Molotok, then, because he has to come back in. It's been a while. Then it's going to be, I think it's Jacob or Jacob, Yara, and then we can go back to that Yemeni and circle back around. I'm going to be taking a shower for the next 5 or 10 minutes, so please let Brenda run the show. Please be respectful of Brenda. She's a super nice person. Brenda, you got it? You want to just let me know you're cool?
Chip, I have to pray, so I'm gonna be 5 minutes. I
You
don't
can
know
go,
if
Chip.
stop me or keep
Take a
me.
shower, call
Yeah,
me.
take your time. Are you good to go, Brenda? I think
I'm good to
that
go, Chip.
Yemeni
Yeah,
needs
go
5
ahead.
minutes to pray. Okay, you
I'm
got it.
good.
Okay, thank you, Brenda.
Chip,
Thanks
thank you
everybody
so
for being
much, brother.
respectful.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, brother.
Yep,
Thank you so
yep,
much,
sure
Chip.
thing. Sure thing. Absolutely.
Thank you, Chip.
Okay, Molotov, go ahead.
Brenda, I'm gonna pray. I just need 5 minutes. If you need to drop me, go ahead.
Hey, so I mean, I had a couple comments for Chip, but I guess anyone Want to have a discussion or talk about anything? Well,
Yes. What do you? I mean, do you want to like? And then somebody mentioned that about they're called refugee camps. Yeah, they're called that because it's called mukhayyam. A mukhayyam in Arabic means like a place where people have to go because they were kicked out of their original property. So I think that's where the term came from, refugee, because these are in fact refugees who have to flee their homelands, their home cities, to go to another city because their house or their land was taken by force by the Israeli government.
I
So this is
appreciate
why,
that, but I wasn't the
yeah.
person talking about that earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm pro-Israel or
That
pro.
to say that we Muslim
Yeah.
leaders have not addressed this issue.
I mean, I can take this opportunity to talk to anyone about anything that contradicts what you perceive my belief system is.
Islam, rather than
What's your
Muslim
belief
leaders trying to
system though?
Yeah,
You
what
just say
yeah,
you
who do you support?
pro-Israel. We don't know what you're supporting that Israel doing. I mean, why you
Yeah,
supporting it?
yeah. You
Then
have
we'll
no
be
idea.
able to debate with you.
Yeah, dude,
Exactly. Yeah. What do you support? You support the
yeah, exactly.
unaliving of innocent
No,
people?
no. So hey, let's just start there for a second. Geez, I really appreciate you saying that because there's a lot I don't support, and then things I do, and I think that one of the biggest things is I don't support Netanyahu being in office, especially for such a long term. Given his track record, especially on top of that with being indicted for fraud and all that stuff, and then even more on top of that, the ascension back to power, attached to Otzma Yehudit. I'm not down with that. Otzma Yehudit is a problem, not only for Palestinian people but also for Jews, living in Israel. I mean, they are, both a nationalist and just Jewish extremist organization trying to implement Orthodox ideology into their laws and procedures and guidelines. And one of the things you touched on, Cartman, which is tough, is that you have these different residencies. You have citizens, like a couple million people living in Israel, and then you have these people with two residencies, and I think there's a lot of, unfairness, and I'm talking specifically to, just kind of what the status quo was before October 7th. My biggest thing is that, I'm Jewish, and I don't want to, I don't want to see any lives, go, right? But for me, this is, it's hard, being Jewish, people from the region, et cetera, and it's hard and it's scary, and it impacts us in the United States in certain ways, and I don't love it,
Jacob,
My,
can you respond to
I'm sorry.
that?
Go ahead.
Jacob, oh, he's gone. After Jacob, then it's Yara. Would you like to respond to that?
Do you want to,
Yaya, sorry, Yaya.
King? Oh,
Oh no, she
Yeah,
said
you mean?
somebody else.
Yaya, would you like to respond to
Uh,
that?
yeah.
Ready? After he?
She right in front of me. I mean, or I don't know. I don't want to get into pronouns. I don't know which. I can't
She's
see.
at the very top.
I
Okay,
am
so
playing
Yaya,
Imran
Is
Khan.
she there?
Trying to say that we
are you there?
Muslim leaders have not addressed this issue either.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, well, after Yaya was Yemeni. Go ahead.
Against radical Islam,
Um,
rather than Muslim
why
leaders
is
trying to
it? What?
explain to the West.
so is no one
Thought that was his
responding?
theme music.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I
Yet.
don't.
That's
I
okay.
don't
Go
know what she
ahead,
was trying to
Yaya.
do there.
So no,
Who wants to
okay.
talk?
So I was just,
That, yeah,
does you have
that
any?
What?
Yemeni, do you want to talk?
I don't know what
I don't
Japanese
think they.
said.
I don't think they
Yemeni's
want to
praying.
talk.
He's praying. He's praying.
Oh, he was
Oh
Oh
praying.
yeah,
yeah, I
he yeah
forgot. Remember, he
yeah
needed
he's
the
praying.
5 minutes for
He
prayer.
needs to
I'm
pray.
sorry, Japanese.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So nobody has
Cartman
a response to
or
anything I
James,
said.
which
Oh,
one of you would like to
I
respond?
do. I just don't want to talk over nobody. Being respectful, should have a very respectful panel. And if you don't know nothing, you'll figure something out
Well,
after you get through
James,
talking.
do you want to go ahead and respond to what Molotov had to say?
Who, me?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, big dog. No, he's from
Sorry, brother.
he's from Pakistan.
Yeah,
Let
I'm
him,
actually Palestinian. I
yeah,
actually
then
still
let
have
him
homes.
talk.
Yeah, here's the thing. My father was born in Jerusalem, like I mentioned before, and he worked for a Jewish bakery. One of his closest friends was the people get along. The civilians whether it's Jewish or Muslim or Arab or, there's nothing going on. I mean, everybody gets along, but sometimes, I believe the IDF likes to, I guess, instigate a war or
Yeah.
start a disagreement. I mean, back to the second Intifada, which is the second, uprising. I was there. I was living there in the year 2000, and a little kid, a little boy named Muhammad Dadura, was unalived on national TV. It was the first time the world saw the evil of the IDF. They're unaliving a kid in his father's lap. I don't know if anyone remembers this. It was 24 years ago, but I was there, and I remember, I remember how it was, and I remember when the second Intifada happened. I used to go to school in Ramallah. It was a school for American-born Arabs like me. That way we can have that. That way we can keep our education up as far as like American education.
Right.
And you know what they would do to us, the IDF? They would dig holes. They would dig a big thing where we couldn't leave the village to go to the city. So they would literally trap us in village, and then they would just cut the water off randomly. They would cut off electricity randomly. You're literally living in it's like it's really, really bad. Unless you've lived it and seen it. I have a scar on my lip to prove it.
Yeah.
When an IDF soldier hit me with the butt of his gun when I was 14 years old. So
Right.
I have it. I spent the night in jail there, and they're trying to feed me pork.
Yeah.
So I'll just end it with that.
So I think, to start, I mean, that's terrible, and I'm sorry you endured that, and that sucks, and it's not okay. Yeah, I mean, look, the whole thing's a mess, and I think that, this is something I've been reading about, learning about for over 20 years at this point. Mm. And, one of the things we touched on earlier, which was the concept of 2 states versus 1 state versus 0 states, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, like, if you would have asked me, I mean, if you asked me today, but like if you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would have told you, I just want people to be able to live in peace together and have like a normal, people have normal lives, and I understand, both from your experiences and my own, it's tough, and I think that, I don't know, what to say in regards to the IDF, except for the fact, I mean, it's like, like King, I'm sure you don't believe that, whatever actions happen on October 7th is representative of all Palestinians, because, I definitely don't, and I could say the same about, fucked up people, fucking with people because they're mean, I guess, too, when it comes to the IDF. And I think that there's just like forever been this back and forth of, people being degraded and used and hurt, on both sides. And it's just a perpetual cycle that I wish would stop.
I would like to respond to that if that's okay. So I mean, I understand that you're walking, you're walking a very neutral line here. But the thing is that you're not necessarily neutral. Like I think a lot of us appreciate, this new vibe of people who are supporting Israel, because we're so used to a very different vibe from people, from pro-Israelis. And I think it's great that you have that you're here, and we're hoping that you are listening. So you're actually listening to the stories, because you're saying very neutral things, but by supporting Israel, you are supporting the oppression and the occupation of the Palestinian people. And I think something that Chip references a lot, and I say it to everybody too, is that, people who, Israelis claim that there's a rise in anti-Semitism, that you guys are scared and this and that, but you have to start looking at like the actual data, thinking about how many
Hold on. Are you going to invalidate my personal experience right now by citing data?
Can you hold on one second? Because I'm not, and this is something that, we want you to listen. Like nobody's invalidating your story. But if you're going to come and join these type of lives, you're not here. You can't possibly think that you're here to convince any of us to not support Palestine.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to do that. I would never.
Yeah. Okay. So hold on. So we're not gonna then you must be here to listen. Is what I'm saying. So then if you're going to listen, like listen to what I'm actually saying, okay? Not what
Okay.
your interpretation
Okay,
of
that's fine. Let's go on with it then.
So my point is that the amount of not counting the Holocaust, because that had nothing to do with Palestine, but the amount of Jews that have been unalived in Israel, or the amount of Israelis that have been unalived, is just completely unproportional. So you're talking about
So this is not within my
feeling.
belief system.
Hold on. I wasn't finished.
It's not relevant to me.
Hold on.
I
I
don't.
wasn't finished.
Okay,
You're saying
you're
that
talking to a
you
wall.
feel unsafe, right? And that you feel like the rise of anti-Semitism. But the data shows that there isn't some, like, Israelis or Jews are not being unalived outside of the United States. Like, that's just not happening. So the fear of something happening is different than it actually happening, because Israelis
Right.
fear that Palestinians are going to attack them.
One
and
sec.
take
Hey, Brenda,
right?
I'm sorry. Hey, real quick, everybody, please be respectful. Let someone finish their statement and then let's take turns. Please don't unmute your mic or I'm going to drop you. Sorry, I don't want to do that.
So thanks, Chip. So the point is that what you got to look at, you might be scared. And the thing is like, one thing to remember is that, anti-Semitism isn't the only type of bias and prejudice that exists in the world. So many of us all actually suffer, from prejudices and racism and everything, and being scared for our lives as well. It's not just because of anti-Semitism, not just people who fear with anti-Semitism, but that's what we're trying to say, is that Israel claims that they're scared that there's only going to be attacks and they're trying to get attacked. But the matter of the fact is that a disproportionate amount of Palestinians have been unalived since the inception of Israel.
Right.
And that's the point.
So I'm not disagreeing that the volume of civilian lives lost in Palestine is lesser or equal to those in Israel. And I think it's asinine, to conflate civilians dying to anti-Semitism in the United States, and how that is portrayed. I don't know why you felt the need to enter into that type of conversation. It had no relevance to anything that I was saying at all. You talked about my neutralness and interest in Israel. I just stated I've been talking about this for over 20 years. I don't know what you hope to prove or gain by citing all those things, but you wasted your breath.
Yeah, hold on, real quick, everybody. Listen, it's if you disagree with what somebody says, that's fine. I could just easily say something to you earlier, Molotek. I was very frustrated with how you were trying to communicate which were, but I did not say you're
Then you
wasting
should
your
have,
breath.
Chip. Then you
So
should have.
be respectful, okay? Don't be a dick.
Then you should have, man.
Don't be a dick. If you want to come up here and talk and share your views, great, but don't be a dick.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Hello.
So we have two new people. Yaya, I think you were on earlier, but we couldn't hear you. Would you like to say something?
I am Imran Khan, Prime Minister of Pakistan.
I'm sorry, could you say?
Sad to say that we Muslim leaders have not addressed this issue either.
Okay, so I think that might be some spam. Okay, so we have Tachi and Allah. I don't think that you guys have spoken. Let's just start with
My little
Tachi.
sister.
Tachi?
I lost my little sister.
Can I go last?
Sure. Allah, would you like to say something?
I'm ready. I'm next in turn. Is he gone? Oh Lord, we lost.
Sorry, James. I thought because we were bringing.
No, you good. You good.
So let me just see if Allah is ready. If not, you can go ahead. Allah, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone.
Actually, I'm
How
ready.
you doing, Alan?
No, let James go.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead, James.
No, I mean, I understand. The first thing I would have said, I understand he got skin in the game. He a Jew. I like the way he was trying to be neutral, but I understand the way he feel. That's the same way I ain't even gonna be on that stuff, cause that don't even mean that. I just look at. I heard a dude talking like he had looked at Gaza on in the West Bank, like it was like he was looking at Palm Springs or Orlando, Florida. Talking about y'all don't know how big the city is and all this. And only thing I had wanted to say when they had told told them, "Oh, you need to get out the strip." First of all, no humanitarian aid. You won't let gas in. You won't let water in. How the hell they gonna get out of there? Now y'all can go around because this other people ain't talk, but I want to know how they supposed to get out of there.
Yes, me too.
I mean, you was sitting up with no gas, no water, no nothing, and any car that moves,
Exactly.
they gonna hit.
Exactly.
So I
Boss,
can
we've
see if
seen
they
it
went to
all.
humanitarian.
We've seen it all.
Yeah.
We're scarred for life. Like, even, like, let's say, I'm going to keep it a buck with everybody. Even if Palestine was to be free, do you guys know that I will never ever look at life the same? I'm sorry. I was born an American. I was born and raised in America. I am not. First of all, I just bought a house. And I believe that's my biggest mistake. Even though that should have been the best move, because I want my daughters to be, you know, a source of shelter. Thank God I paid for it all cash, knowing the amount of, you know, 6 figures plus. It's crazy, but I did it, and I don't even want to be in this country because I'm so embarrassed to say that I'm an American, because my country isn't run by Americans. My country, the people that run my country, that are in charge, are all sellouts. And I'm good. It's like I don't even want to be here anymore. So when they say go back to my country, sadly, this is my country and I'm still living in it. But I hate it. But it's like I don't know where to go. Go back to Yemen? I'm not gonna lie to you. I went there once. I got sick, very sick, from just like drinking water type sick. Because like I took like all the shots you're supposed to take before you go, but and then mind you, it was beautiful. It was like the lifestyle over there. Yeah, look, we're rich in ways and that make them poor, right? But they're rich, they're richer in more other ways that make us look poor, like values that they have that we already lost, like even not as like Muslims. I'm talking about in general, like WWJD. What would Jesus do? Did everyone forget about what would Jesus do? Like in this time, right today, what would Jesus do? Like for the love of God, man, I'm a grown ass man, and
He would be ashamed.
I gotta hold myself from being a little bitch and crying, because I can't, and I can't even enjoy my time with my kids. I look at them, then I remember the body parts that I used to see, and I'm like, damn, bro, these are like, you know, car parts. What's going on? What am I seeing? I can never unsee it. I freaking go to sleep with nightmares.
Try seeing it in person.
Screw this
Try
country.
seeing it in person.
I hate this.
Oh, he
I
from Yemen.
dislike this country so bad. There's nothing that I dislike more than America. America that won't stop sticking its butt into everyone's business. That's all we're good at doing. Us Americans is good at sticking our butts into people's businesses. When all we should just do is just stay out of everybody's business. If we would stop sending what we sent to Israel one day, the word homelessness wouldn't even exist in America. We got our veterans that fought for our freedom. Everyone that's on this panel. Everyone that's on this panel. We are free for our veterans. They are homeless in the street. This is our thank you to them. Thank you. They're on the street.
Thank you. You're right about that. You're
Damn.
right. But we ain't talking about
He
America.
made some.
We
He
got all
made
the
some
millions.
points there.
We understand what you're saying. We understand what you're
Ukraine,
saying.
all the millions. All the
I'm right there
billions
with you.
to Israel. But we can't
Guys.
fix our own people.
We understand. We hurt too. We don't help our own people neither. We understand. But
Did I
we
make a
just
bad
talking
choice?
about.
Yeah, can we let's go ahead and let Tashe. Tashe, is that how you say your name?
Yeah. Hey, did I make a bad choice enlisting then?
In what?
Enlisting into the army.
Enlisting. Oh, honey, that's a question you're gonna have to answer for yourself.
You're gonna have to take that with you to the
Yeah.
grave. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's a
Bro,
question you're gonna have to
I'm
take
not
with
trying
you
to
to
be
the
poor in
grave
life,
by
bro.
yourself.
I'm not trying to be poor. It's just like life's been going downhill, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Like I ain't talk as a kid, bro. I had a stutter, bro. Everything went bad. I ain't passed high school, bro. I dropped out, bro. I'm just enlisting, bro. So I'm like, y'all make this
Hey,
like
bro. Hey, bro.
Which
I swear
army
to
you
God, put it
going?
this way. Get in touch with me, and I'll make it to where I'll get you a job, bro. I'll get you a job that pays you good to where you don't have to go nowhere.
That's
For
right.
real, I'm not talking. I don't talk. I'm talking right now, but talk is cheap. All I have is my word. I'm giving you my word, bro. Don't enlist.
يا
I
بتحكي
almost did
عربي؟
it. I almost did it back in 05. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I almost did it.
يمني بتحكي عربي؟
ايوه احكي عربي بس بدي
الحمد
الناس
لله.
يفهموني, so I want everybody, you
I
know.
got you. I got you. Yeah.
Hashim, there's something else
الحمد
that
لله.
you want to say before we give the mic to Allah?
Nah, Allah, you got that for her. I'm gonna send that boy email a text off right now.
Okay. All right, Allah, would you like to say something?
يلا أنا احكي.
Yeah, so I literally just left work and I had the like most disgusting experience. I deal with people on a daily basis, but this time it was kind of different because I didn't know how to react. And a lot of people like when someone looks at you, they're automatically judging you, like I feel. Just by the way you look, just by the way you dress, by the color of your skin. And you could say you don't, but you do. Like, honestly, you do. You just do. Anyway, so there was this lady that came up to me. I was helping her with something. And she comes up to me and she says, "Are you Mexican?" And I'm like, "No, I'm Palestinian." She was like, "Oh, then why aren't you protesting? Why are you here?" And I was like, "What are you talking?" Like, she was saying it in a way that, like, kind of like, what's the word? Like, kind of like trying to be funny, you know? Like, she was like, "Oh, then why are you working? Why you're supposed to be protesting? Why aren't you there?"
Like she was mocking?
Yeah, like trying to say, like, you know, you don't
Sarcastic,
deserve.
sarcastic.
Yeah, like, and you'll never guess, like, what the ethnicity she was.
يهود؟
She was Iraqi.
So she really big damn funny then.
She
My question is, why is it her business?
Well, you
That's
know,
my question.
everybody get it. Everybody get it. That's why I laugh at when it happened.
I was like,
You know,
Go ahead and finish, Allah. Go ahead.
and then I was like, why? Like, she was like, "Oh, they're blocking the streets, they're this and that." And I was like, why? You don't like it? Like, is it bothering you? Does it affect your daily life? I'm confused. Like, why is it a problem? The more they do that, the more our voices are heard. Like, yeah, like the news is literally so powerful. It's insane. But sometimes the news is filtered and censored. I get that. But literally what happened yesterday at the O'Hare Airport when I was going home, the roads were blocked and I couldn't get a ride home. Like, I had to wait for my husband to pick me up like hours later. But I couldn't get mad. Like, I wasn't mad. I was happy. Like, I was so like proud of our people and what they're doing. Like, others were like so angry that they couldn't get to their flights. But I was like, I had a flight too, and I didn't care because there was a meaning behind it. But there's people out there are so selfish. Like, there's people dying, but they're worried about their flights. Like, our problems are way more like lighter than what people are going through on the ground in Gaza. But yeah, that's all I had to say.
Thanks, Allah. Okay, so we have Federico. Would you like? I think you're next.
I am gonna stick around just until ship comes back. Well, yeah, so we have open a new argument or a new subject. But
No, sir.
yeah,
It's just letting their feelings go.
yeah.
you guys, I'm at work, so that's why I like, when I'm almost done. So I'm gonna take another 5-10 minutes before I'm out of work, and then I'm all mic.
Okay, no worries, Federico. Would anybody else? I can never. Sorsa. Would you like to say something?
Go ahead.
I don't think the one at the top next to you done spoke yet, have it?
Yeah, Sorsa. Sorsa,
Yeah,
is that how you
please,
say it?
someone go ahead.
She up there at the top. I mean, I'm sorry, whoever at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on some things. I wanted to bring us deep into deep waters just to understand what this enemy's doing and why they're doing it. I think it's very important to look at the documents that they're looking at to justify how they're treating and why they're treating the Palestinians like animals. The Babylonian Talmud is very important in doing this. So if you get a chance to download that PDF, you'll understand why this is happening. And I think that that's very important to understand that they've been kicked out of 109 countries for a reason. It's not because people hate Jewish people. Like, that's just not a thing. I know many of you have dear Jewish friends and know that the Jewish people as a whole are good people, right? But the problem is that those at the very, very top have a different ideology. They study different things, different literature. They're from a different bloodline, right? And so I just think it's necessary for us to unpack and dissect the roots of this thing, because if we don't do that and we focus on, oh, what did Iran do today? What did Israel do, on Tuesday? What did this and that? It's just total distraction from who's inciting this, who's engineered this conflict to happen in order for us to mutually destroy each other. So I just think that that's important. I wanted to say also, I love you all very much. It doesn't matter your religion, your skin color. I could care less. I just think that we're all very sacred and divine, and we need to start unpacking who is against us, who is against humanity. Why are they against humanity? What do they want? Do they want a pyramid of power? Why do they want that? How far back do they go? What bloodlines are they? What houses are they? Where are they in Europe? These are the questions that I think are very important to unpack and dissect in order to understand what this enemy wants, why they want it. So anyway, sorry for the monologue. I love you all very much.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think that this is a thing, I talk about this all the time too, about how this is all surface level. We have to look further up. Like, there's a lot more entities at play here than just it being a simple regional conflict. And well, not so simple, but I think there's definitely a lot to be said about what is actually in control here, about the money. You always have to follow the money, and I definitely agree with you. Would you, and you know what, and another thing, that Yemeni, I don't know if you're still there, but I know earlier, there was a bit of an emotional moment to think about, like, how the American people, there's so much of what's happening, that is because of us. But I think these type of conversations are so important to this, because we're not in a different place as an American people. We're not the same people who allowed the system to get to this point. Like, I think we're at a climax. I think the American people are need to be at the helm of the awakening, because we are the ones that caused this, right? Not us personally, but we're talking about the country from which so many of us that grew up in the United States have benefit from it. Because even if we are people of color, even if we're out of minorities or out of Latina, indigenous, all of them, we still benefited in some way from American society. And I think so many of us were asleep to a lot of the conflicts that were around the world that were not just perpetrated against our people. And I think that's why Palestine is a catalyst, because they worked so hard to convince us that the Palestinians were the bad guys. And because we're all realizing, wait a minute, that's not true. We are going against the grain. We're going against the programming. We are deprogramming, deconstructing, and unlearning and relearning so much of the history that has been taught to us, that it's a critical point in our history. So I think, yes, it's hard, it's emotional, but I think there's hope as well. So that was just my point. When anybody else?
I agree. I just believe that it's going to be a long way from hope.
Okay. Well, just another thing. I be on real political stuff, and I don't mean to go down this rabbit hole, Chip, because I'm pretty sure Chip kind of know about this. When you want to know the families and all this, listen, ain't nothing the American people can do through the Federal Reserve. They already own our books. They don't even need our votes to do that. I said earlier, the politicians, they ain't gonna have no job if they vote for the people. So it don't necessarily be us. The powers that be, all you gotta do is look at J.P. Morgan. I mean, come on. You see who all making the money. and they make money off our suffering. That's the reason they don't care. They don't make money for us to prosper. But like I said, I digress. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. It's kind of easy to find the convicts that you're looking for. They just can't never go to jail.
Well, James, you're absolutely correct, brother. It's not even a rabbit hole anymore. I mean, the more we look at this thing, the more it's unpacked and the more light goes on it. It's so obvious.
Give our right up with the Federal Reserve.
But yes, absolutely. You know, the Federal Reserve is owned by these families. Same thing with the IMF. Same thing with the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. The same thing with the CB and the World Bank, right? The central bank.
Yeah, everybody think they own it when they don't. These are private entities.
That's right. They are privately owned by families in Europe that have bloodlines that go all the way back to Babylon and Nimrod. But we don't need to go down there. That's a separate project. But the reality is that Americans are different from the American government. We are absolutely similar to the American government. Americans abhor this American government. We fought this American government. We fought the British. We buried 35,000 of them. We fought the South during our Civil War, which was funded out of the Bank of England by the Rothschilds.
Okay, I'm just finna say that. I'm finna say that.
It's a fact. And so we've been fighting this government ever since we've been on this soil. And so it's very important to distinguish between Americans and our American government. I just wanted to say that last thing. I didn't want to monologue. James, you hit it. Love you all very much. I'm going to dip out.
Bye. Before Chip takes over, can everybody make sure that you tap into Protect Alive and share with your friends, and make sure you join Chip's team and send team gifts, because that's what actually pushes out the live the most.
Hey guys, I'm actually at the movie theater now. I'm here to watch a movie, so thank you for letting me on the panel. I appreciate it. Chip, I'll send you a follow. Hopefully I can be in one of your panels, and thank you so much for letting me speak my mind. And maybe until next time, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Have a good one.
I want to ask the audience a question, just as a thought exercise. So first of all, what is the role of a central bank, and why does it matter who controls or has ownership of the central bank? Does anybody want to share some about that?
Oh, I don't mind. Chip, I watch this type of stuff.
Okay, go ahead, James.
Listen here, first of all, the central bank, they tricked us with the central bank. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it real. It's not a central bank. What the central bank was meant to do is to protect all the other banks. You know what I'm saying? With the gold standard, which they decided to go on flip off, you know what I'm saying, Mr. Morgan them and whatever. I don't know if you want to call it greed or whatever, but they knew they were doing it at the time because they wrote what they were doing at the time. They hid it from the American people. They tricked us like we own the bank. They own us. So the problem with the central bank don't have nobody to tell them what to do. They do what they want to do. But what it supposed to been for, it's supposed to been, for anything. Like if this bank needed something, they supposed to have the money for. If this person needs them, they supposed to have the money for. It don't work like that. Not the way it was designed to work, but the way they made it work. Oh Lord. I wish I was in on deal. Just got a money presser with no money.
Yeah, one of the things that's hard to understand is that how money works. So let me take you back to the old days. When we all want to wonder, well, how did currency come into being? How did all this stuff happen? So back in the old days, people usually first of all, the first thing people did was trade things. That's called bartering or trade. That's what the word trade means. So I might have a chicken, you might have a basket of wheat or a bushel of wheat, and we decide we're going to trade those two things, right? That's trade. Well, it turned out that sometimes it was inefficient because maybe you had something that was worth a lot more, something that was worth less. You still wanted the item, but you couldn't give them all of your item because it was much more expensive. So they came up with an intermediary system based on coinage, metal, some kind of metal, bronze, or later gold or silver. Now, with gold and silver coins, people could now change those back and forth for items rather than the items themselves. So that was the initiation of some sort of means of exchange or store of value.
And everyone agreed that this size silver coin would be worth this and stuff like that. And they kind of held their value because there was only so much silver available to put into the coinage. It was a limit, so that it had a fixed value. So what happened over time was people who started to earn more money. Let's say you're someone who produces crops and you sold a lot of your crops because you had a very good harvest year. You would go to the market, you would collect a lot of these silver or gold coins, whatever it may have been. And obviously it's risky holding coins because someone can rob you, or that you could lose them, or whatever the case may be. So what people started doing was they would have secure vaults where people could keep their coinage. Someone would charge a fee and they would have armed guards, and you would go in there and you'd put your stuff in there like a bank, but it wasn't called that back then. And then people would hold on to your coinage, and for the coins you deposited there or they were storing, they would give you a claim check. Okay, I just put in 10 pieces of silver. Silver claim check. It's like a receipt. It's like a pawn shop. Now, what happened was, everyone could go to the central vault and get their coins out and then go trade those for goods. However, it was much more convenient just to give somebody else your slip. So if you had 5, 10 coin slips from your banks over time, and somebody wanted to, someone was going to charge you 5 silver coins or 10 silver coins, you just write your slip to them. Then they could go use that claim check to withdraw it if they needed to. That's how currency started. Now, the people in the vaults got pretty smart. They realized that very rarely, because of the convenience of people exchanging the slips, did they come in to get their actual metals for it. And so they got smart. So instead of loaning our gold to people and charging them a couple coins extra, which is interest, they decided to start issuing more of the checks. They would loan people more claim checks. They would create claim checks that weren't backed by the coins themselves. And they would loan those out to people and then charge them interest. That's how the issuance of additional money printing started. You're creating claim checks that don't have something to back it up. So that's the idea behind a central vault. It gives somebody the flexibility to earn money on that didn't exist before. Does that sound pretty good business, right? If you could not have the money, lend it to somebody, it was just nothing. You got to take that bad deal, right? So that's how this all works. Now, carrying that forward, that was the existence of sort of paper currencies. Now, fast forward to today, some of the money that the bankers loan and get interest on was paid back to depositors, because people got attuned to the game when they realized sometimes people would go to the bank, go to the vault, and if enough people came at once, they didn't have enough coins to give everybody their money back. And people realized they were playing this game. So eventually there were regulations and rules, and every country does it differently. But the idea would be that the deal would be this: they could loan money out more than what they hold in their bank as reserves, but depositors get small interest rate on their savings to get a piece of the action, basically. And it varies based on the central interest rates. Now, it's more complex than that, but I'm giving you the basics tenets of what built this. Now, in terms of this is a very differentiation. We've heard of the Treasury, and then we've heard of the central bank. Now, believe it or not, in the United States, there was a central bank that was owned and operated by the U.S. government at one point. And the Treasury is it's like the country's checking account. And it has a few other functions, but basically that's the money that we have or don't have, the debt we do or don't accumulate. So the Treasury money comes into the Treasury through taxes and the receipt money goes out of the Treasury in terms of expenditures, which Congress mandates. Now, the central bank acts as what's called the lender of last resort. So you have regional banks, you have big banks, you have community banks, and there's something called fractional reserve lending. This is the real key thing to understand. This is the hard one because it doesn't seem like, how can that be? It's very strange. Okay, so normally you and I would think of money as like we have money. Like, somebody gives you $1,000 on your paycheck, you put that in the bank, you have money, right? That's the way you and I have money. That's not how it works in the banking system. They have a method, and this is crazy. You can look this up on YouTube if you want to watch a whole documentary, but I'll give you the quick synopsis. So let's say you're a bank and somebody comes in and borrow, let's say $100,000 to buy a fancy car. So right now what happens is that you borrow the money from the bank. In other words, the bank will write a check to the dealership, give you the money, issue the loan. That loan is considered an asset to the bank, $100,000. They have to have $10,000 in reserves to secure that $100,000 loan, 10% fractional reserve. That's a fractional reserve they have to keep to issue that loan. So they have to maintain reserves, and then they can take that new asset which is $100,000 loan, and they only have to put aside $9,000. They can lend out $91,000 against that asset. In other words, preserving a small portion of the loan as a reserve. And that's how money gets created from the banking system. When you go to the bank to get a loan, they don't have the money they're lending you. They lend the money into the money system.
Sounds like a scam.
I know that sounds crazy.
Sounds like a
Like
big
how
scam.
can people lend money they don't have and make money off of it?
Hold up.
That's
Ask
how money
Chip, tell him this question. It's actually illegal for banks to do that, but they get away.
Hold on. No. Hold on. This is not true. There are regulations at the federal level in every country as far as how this works. So in the United States and in other most Western countries, it's legally allowed for banks a certain amount against the assets that they hold. It's called their reserves. When you see a banking crisis, it's not just a quote run on the bank. Let me finish, James.
Oh no, you good.
James, let me finish. When you hear of a banking crisis, it's because the banks don't have enough reserves because of maybe making bad financial bets or whatever to back up the loans that they have in their portfolio. So what happens then? You've heard of banks being, quote, recapitalized by the Fed. The Federal Reserve banking system, which used to be government run, which meant that the people got the money from the backstopping of the banks and the interest that moves between the banking institutions. And by the way, this is an ongoing thing through what's called repos. I don't want to get into the details, but the bottom line is these numbers are always fluctuating back and forth. Banks go into overages or underages based on their portfolio assets. It's complicated, but the bottom line is banks are required by law to maintain a certain amount of reserves. And when that gets low, they get stress tested and they sometimes get taken over if they're underwater. And that's why banks fail. The Federal Reserve can loan banks money or act as an overnight lender to financial institutions. And it's gotten way out of control. The problem is that lender of last resort is no longer publicly owned. It's privately owned, which gives essentially a private entity the right, if they choose, to unlimited money at interest. Because every time somebody gets it, so they loan money to both individual banks and the US Treasury. Now, why does that matter? Well, not because the Treasury is what you and I do. It's how our country does its thing, right? Private industry does their thing. That's part of the lending process. But public institutions like government, state, local, federal, there's money. These people need money to operate. So these people get to loan that money and it doesn't exist at interest. Now imagine, right, they don't have to maintain reserves either, by the way. So imagine if you owned a bank that lent trillions of dollars every year that didn't exist, and you got interest on that money. Now that is one hell of a good business model, and that's one of the richest men on earth. You can hear their name because Elon Musk is chump change. These people create all of the lending in the entire banking system, and they make money against all the money that's out there, and that's a pretty amazing thing right now. Now the U.S., the federal. Who was coming in just a second? So the bottom line is a lot of people, including people like you heard of Rand Paul and Ron Paul, his father, they were talking about trying to rein in or end the Federal Reserve Bank because it gives tremendous power to those who own the shares in this bank. And just so I know, how is it broken up? It's like one of these publicly, it's a private organization, but it has shares of ownership. So it's not like one family owns the whole thing. Some corporations have share of ownership in this bank, so they make a ton of money. But a lot of private families have their share of the bank, including it's cross-pollinate. The Bank of England has some American shareholders. The Federal Reserve Bank, and there's this. It's a combination of very high net worth transnational oligarchs that own these things. These are the people that really call the shots. So if you want to get something done in the world, they're the ones who are going to decide if it does or doesn't have. They decide which wars get fought, who gets the money to fight the wars. They backstop federal governments. All the money the U.S. is lending right now and putting on its debt is all from the Federal Reserve. All that money is coming and someone else is making the interest on those bonds, and it's not you and me. And this small cartel of bankers are getting absurdly rich, and they set the agenda on the global stage for almost everything that's important. So that's why it's such a big deal. And the amount of inordinate power and control. Somebody says, I don't care about the presidency. I don't care about give me the ability to control the currency of a country, and I don't need any other position of power because they have the ultimate power. So we're sort of under the stranglehold of a banking cartel, and it lies at the root of every other problem in our civilization that is, unless those things change, nothing is going to change. unfortunately. That's a red. Do you want to jump in, James, and say something?
If I know how that all that stuff function, I would have been a millionaire right
My
now.
sir, my point exactly. You know what I'm saying? I just was trying to give him the short version because I'm telling you, when you find out on your own money, it's kind of incredible. Be like, well, how's Congress doing something? How's them doing that? We know who the lobby is now. You see what I'm saying? It's incredible. I mean, you making money out of thin air. They ain't even got to have a business no more. Warren Buffett went and bought he went and bought 100. I'm sorry, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Can we agree it's all a scam?
I'm just saying, when your company invests in themselves, you think you're doing strong. No, you're not. Them folks buying all that back in the stock done went up like a mug, and they just made so much money off zero paper. Nobody went to work.
They scam all day and all night. While
But we
everybody else
don't
gets
get no interest off this money, and they keep getting it bleeded.
no, because they're greedy. These are greedy
Well, they,
people.
like he said, they run the whole game. You can't get nothing unless you ask them for it.
Russia kicked them out. Russia, that's
Well,
why the
Russia can
problem.
do that.
Yeah, Russia
Let me tell you guys.
they had a
That's
contract
why
that
they own.
ended in
My bad.
2000. Yeah, they had a contract that ended in 2000, and that's why they're after Russia and after Putin. When it happened, Putin said, just they wanted to renew the contract. He said, no, we're gonna print our own.
You might as well. You might as well, because you don't want to be held by them. That's your sanctions. Then they're trying to hold your money.
Yeah, if COVID didn't prove one thing, it proved that money in itself is a big scam because they could print as much as they want and use it for whatever they want.
And then you still have to pay them back. They the only people with no debt.
Can we agree that it's like the biggest scam, and we're still in prehistoric ways? And should money equal power in this day and time? Guys, should money equal power in this day and time, in this day and age? Can someone let me know?
I say no, but can I ask everybody else? Yeah, the money, power, everybody know it shouldn't at this point in time in our lives. But if you was on the front line when you knew that you had the whole world, you know what I'm saying, in the palm of your hand, and they were finna sign the whole world off to you, I don't think you'll give it up.
Actually, for the betterment of everyone,
I'll put that on
I
facts.
think anyone would give it up.
Like
Because
who?
why be greedy and have everything for yourself when the whole world can be happy, not just you?
Well, people don't live in the whole world. They just stay around with the block they stay at. If I'm the Royals, I just stay in. You see what I'm saying? Other countries, like, they begging me for money. What do I need to do for them when they don't send me all this? They
So
feel
again,
entitled. They say they smarter than you. That's the reason they deserve the money.
so look, it made sense 2,000
We're
years
just
ago.
guys.
We got to let some other folks get in, James. If you don't mind, we got to give a couple of more people a chance to speak.
We're
Just remember this, guys and gals. When you say we don't get the interest, here it's worse than that. So imagine that our bank account. Normally, if you have a bank account, you can't overdraft, right? We know that you can, but they charge you a fee. But imagine if you have a credit card statement without a limit, like the American Express. What is it called? The Black Card, where you can just charge whatever you want. America has an American Express Black Card that has a ridiculous, never increasing balance that's due, and all we're doing every month and every year is paying the interest on this ever growing principal that's never getting smaller. The people making the money off that interest are the banking system funding that public debt. But guess who's on the hook to pay it back? You and me, the American taxpayer, and your children and their grandchildren more likely. And so therefore it seems unfair. And again, like any other credit card system, they usually have a limit, but if it's an unlimited card, eventually the interest plus the little minimum payment gets so big, you can't even afford that anymore. And that's where we're very closely approaching. I think the interest on the national debt right now every year is close to like $670 billion. And our budget, and that's taking up a lot of our budget. So it's getting very, very overwhelming. Now we're still, in terms of our gross domestic product, our debt is not necessarily as high as other countries from a ratio standpoint, but it's very quickly moving there in terms of a multiple, which is why they're starting to downgrade the credit rating of the US government. The bonds that are sold in the international market, a lot of countries are either divesting of them or not buying new ones. And guess who has to buy the bonds if nobody else will buy them? The Federal Reserve. They're the ones who buy the bonds back. And then guess who we owe? We owe them the money back and the interest of those people. So that's what's called money printing, when you buy back your own bonds through the central bank. So anyway, that's what's going on. We're at $34 trillion in number. And it's estimated that every 3 months, the United States is going to start printing $1 trillion every 3 months in perpetuity right now on a runaway train of debt. And that's the problem. And that's causing inflation, because the amount of money in circulation is drastically increasing while the set of goods has not drastically increased, and that causes prices to rise. We're seeing it in the food market, all the commodities markets. Gold now is at $2,470 or something like that. I was just watching it today, all-time highs. And if you look at the markets, just, one of the ways you can see if the financial markets are doing well or not, you can divide the index, like the S&P 500, by the price of gold. And so while we're at near all-time highs on the index, we're nowhere near all-time highs priced in gold. So we're not doing as well as we think, because normally, in actual purchasing power, the market value of your portfolio actually buys less if you cashed it out right now than it would before. Anyway, pretty scary time. Who hasn't had a chance to speak yet? Danny, you've barely talked, right?
Well, I just popped in and out, but I was just saying how the whole money system is a scam. Capital has been beaten to the ground now. So I just wanted to talk about that, if that's okay.
Yeah, whatever you want to say, go for it.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it's like prehistoric thinking the way we're living now. It's still the same system as 2,000 years ago, just like how you talked about when money was created. So we still in that same system, yes. But now they've manipulated it in a way where it becomes digital, it becomes easier to manipulate. Therefore, the people that have abundance of it can easily multiply it by as many times as they want. Now, anyone coming in new, they start from the bottom, and you'll never be able to get to the top. So the psychology behind money is that there's no end to the amount that you can have. And in this day and age, we don't need to be chasing money to pay our mortgages and things like that. We can see how, just like how you explained, they're in trillions of dollars in debt. That should show you how much of a scam the system is. When the stock market goes bankrupt, or the car companies go bankrupt, and the banks bail it out, and the government bails the bank out, you can see that it's all a scam. That's one word for it. So in this day and age, we don't need money anymore. And anything that has to do with money can go away. Therefore, you eliminate greed. And that's where the politicians are pretty much, they're based on greed. They shouldn't be paid anything. Politicians should work for their community because they want to make the community a better place. So they should no longer get paid. And in fact, money shouldn't exist any longer because we don't need it at all. We're smart enough humans to be able to survive without money. We have communication, we have technology. It's not like 2,000 years ago anymore. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I know it's overwhelming to think a world without money, but it's really not. Like, they've implanted value in gold in our heads and silver and value of money and currency. It's all fake. There's no real value in gold or silver or anything like that. It's just implanted into your brain that there is value in it. There's an abundance of it. But if two people hold on to the majority of it, or know where the majority exists and keeps it away from everyone else and then puts a fake value on it, well, that's where we are today. Because there's an abundance of everything in the world. So again, we don't need money. I just wanted to hear what you guys think.
Okay, real quick, I'll do my 2 cents. Okay, so I disagree in one way. If we want to have a modern economic system, It's very hard for barter alone to be the way in which commerce occurs for the aforementioned reasons. If you have a car and you want to trade it in and someone only has a bushel of corn you need temporarily, what are you going to do about the difference? You're going to have the person owe you 1,000 more bushels of corn. It's going to be complicated. There needs to be some store of value and means of exchange to compensate for those imbalanced situations like that. I do think interest on money is a point of contention that we could easily talk about. The reason why we have to have perpetual growth is because of interest, because of the way it affects the money supply. You have to have growth or it collapses, because the debts can't be repaid without the interest payments. It's a very bad way of setting things up. The fractional reserve lending system, in my opinion, should be ended. But the supply of money is what allows things to function. In other words, the more money there is in supply, the cheaper it is to borrow it. The interest rates stay low. When you contract the money supply, the interest rates go up because you're removing bonds from the system. So then the rates go up. So when rates go up, then business slows down, as we're seeing right now. Rates have climbed up recently. Try getting a car loan or a home loan right now. It's a lot more expensive. So everything in this economy has become financialized, and it's so interest rate and money supply dependent. The markets themselves right now, everything the market does is not based solely on the fundamental companies that should make up the value. It's based on the supply of money to be able to buy up more of those assets. It's insane. And so we're sort of in this runaway train where the collapse is coming. It's just a question of when does the music stop? So we need something, but I think we need to relocalize the economies, get rid of this centralized banks, get rid of fractional reserve lending, or at least have it much more tightly managed and not have it requirements so it doesn't get slow. And also eliminate derivatives. If you don't know what derivatives are, that's a whole other conversation. There's so many trillions of dollars of derivatives, which are very tricky. When the 2008, hey Ruby, when the 2008 financial crisis occurred and the banks got recapitalized under Obama, this is the sick part. So every bank that took these bets, like these were called swaps, credit default swaps, which means that basically you're going to pay me a fee as an insurance provider in case your financial bet goes south. I'll have to pay you the difference if things don't work. Well, the companies who took the insurance money didn't have enough money. So what the US government did was not just save the banks, they completely recapitalized them. So whomever was owed money for these bad insurance deals got all their money back. And they paid the executive bonuses. And guess whose credit card that went on? It went on our American Express Black Card, every penny of that. Now, why shouldn't the people who made these bad bets have to eat their bad bets? They make all the money when they work out, but when they didn't work out, we paid the bill. We were the backstop for them. That's terribly unfair, right? That ruins the system. It's heads they win, tails we lose. And that's the problem with the system, is that the financial system, the central bankers, the banks control the entire system. They control the government, they control the military, they control policy. It's bad. And they make APAC look like chumps. Trust me. So it's a very complicated, interconnected system with a very simple problem: excess control by capital. That's it. Best way I can put it. What other thoughts do other people have about this? I'm curious to hear. You want to go? Who else wants to jump in?
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me up here.
Yeah.
I want to say I agree. Right now, we have a whole kind of multifaceted way of just being bombarded with, I guess, money being printed, not really fixed, by non-government entities, so we can't really watch them through the government lens, because they don't classify as a government entity by default. Kind of like the General Education Board. So it's kind of like we need to look into that as well. But I think what happened in 2000 might happen, because you know how real estate goes in 4 cycles. You have the hyper supply, you have the regrowth. So I think right now we're kind of in between the 3rd to 4th transition of real estate market, where we printed a lot of things, hyper supplied it. Probably not going to go back to what we had before. Hold on, I got a phone call.
That's going to go while that's in.
Look, the worst famine in history was in. I want to see if anyone can answer this question. Does anyone know the worst?
Well, can you hold on? He's not to minimize the importance of that, but that's a pretty big hard left turn. Just hang on 1 second. Just hold that thought.
Does Brendan, Danny, Federico, or James, Federico, or Danny, or Brendan, you want to jump in?
Federico is one of these guys that, you know, they say in life, work smart or work hard. I'm the guy that decided to work hard. I don't know, man. I don't understand none of that capitalism stuff. I know how to go to work to make a shitload of money and spend a shitload of money. And if I knew how all of that works, I would be a millionaire right now. But I don't know. My brain doesn't function this way. I don't know. I'm trying to listen, like all the conversation you guys having.
Yeah.
I sound to myself the dumbest guy in the room.
No, you're not
It's
dumb at all.
it's a
Believe
fact.
me, you're
No,
not
no.
Puerto Rico.
It's
I
better.
know.
You're
I know
not.
it's not. No. I'm not saying that I am dumb, but I'm not really dumb. But when it comes to that subject, I just didn't. I'm not involved in it.
They told nobody.
Yeah.
Design. We're not meant to know this stuff. Like,
That's why I'm telling Federico, don't feel bad. They ain't tell nobody.
no,
None
but
of
yeah,
us
no,
are.
No,
definitely, I think so many of
Nobody
us are
that's
knows
why
starting
I
to
tell.
understand this, like now, like starting to really connect the dots between what's happening with what all of these conflicts have to do with the world banking system, with the way that everything is established.
The only thing I wish that I played Monopoly when I was a kid.
Monopoly. Many people don't know how to play Monopoly.
But you
Uh,
gotta be
But
the
I mean,
banker. Remember the banker. You gotta be the
well, I
banker.
mean,
If not,
as the banker, if the
as long as
person
you
who
play
owned the
it,
most amount of property was the person who had the most amount of money, right? The more assets you have, the more money you have. Us normal folks, we don't have the money that that the banks did.
but tell the truth, in Monopoly, you had to sell your houses and everything to try to get some from the bank.
Yeah, that's how they
They couldn't
indoctrinate.
wait to get it back from you. They gave it to you. They give you money to start Monopoly, right?
That's how
yep.
they indoctrinate you from when you're a child.
And usually they say I'm Lebanese. Then usually they say buying and selling is not blood, which is true because I do. Like anytime I have a couple of dollars on the side, I put them somewhere, and sometimes I lose, sometimes I profit. But I would say I'm not I'm a very high risk uh, investor. Like I just grab and dump and a lot of times you see me one day I'm high in the sky, one day I'm down deep in a funnel. So, but I always, no matter what happened, I always get back on my feet and I rebuild whatever I. But I still, I wish, and I have daughters, and I tell them, if you go and study numbers, I will support you financially until the day I die. But you have to study numbers because all connects to the number. If you know numbers, you can predict the future. If you know numbers, you can manage your own stuff. If you don't know numbers, you would be like me. You make money, you spend money, you don't know what came in, what went out.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm going to give like the educator's perspective because I have two master's degrees all in education. And honestly, I feel like at times I feel like I wasted my money. I've left the teaching field because I felt I reached a point in which I felt like I'm doing so much more harm to students than I am than what I could be doing with something else with my life because I realized just how a huge part of the indoctrination system is the education system because like you said, you don't really know how this works. Most people. We go to school, we teach kids useless things. We teach them the Pythagorean theorem. We teach them like, DNA strands. Like these are things that in real life we're not going to use. Whereas if like they taught us how money works, how to make money, how to like actually survive, how to make a living, like if they taught us all these things, we would all be a very different society, but that's not what they want from us. And I think this whole thing with the banking system, I think one of the biggest I'm convinced is that we have to pay to live. And I think that's how this whole banking situation is connected to everything that's happening now. And I think it's a big part of the mass awakening because people are starting to question the fact that we have to pay to live. like so many Americans, so many people around the world are struggling financially. Like they're being, they're becoming, homeless. They don't have, they have to choose between paying rent or being able to like eat, 2-3 meals a day. And so like those type of things is that it's starting us all it's making us all question, like, wait a minute, why do I have to pay to live on this planet? And we live in an economy that has the principle that like resources are scarce. And like Danny said, resources are not scarce. They're scared for those of us at the bottom, but they're not scarce for those of the people that control those resources. And that's all connected, right? Again, whoever controls the resources controls industry, controls money, controls the rest of us. And so I think that's something that a lot of people have to start waking up to, the fact that it's not just about Israel and Palestine. All of these dots are connected, and it's part of the mass awakening that we're all going through. And with that, I'm going to drop. Thank you so much for having me, everybody.
Please don't drop. I got to ask you one question because you're very intelligent.
Sure.
I want to ask you too, but since you're a teacher, think about what you just said. They didn't teach us anything. What if they taught us the tax code growing up in school? Would you think it'd be the same thing?
If they taught us what? Sorry?
The tax code, where everybody know how they do their
Yes.
taxes back and forth.
I think if we really understood how taxes worked, I think a lot of people would understand how unfair the tax system is. I think we would really
Yes.
know where our money is going, right? If everybody had known that we've been giving $16 billion to Israel before October 7th, and we all knew that. Like, I've known that for many years, and I've always questioned that, but like people always thought I was crazy for questioning that, or people didn't really, it wasn't on people's radar. But I think absolutely, James, if we taught kids how to do their taxes, if we taught them, how the economy really works, how banks really work, how like true political dynamics of the world and the true history of the United States and our colonial history, I think we would all have very, very different perspectives than what we have now.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Have a very good evening. Bye, Chip. Have a good night.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda. That's why I'm talking about, Chip. You be getting away real knowledge.
Yeah, I was trying to find a good video to show you an intro to CBDCs. I'm looking at some now. So if you all want to keep the conversation going, I'm almost done looking at that.
Oh, I totally. If I can say something about what Brenda said, she's totally right about the education thing. They don't teach you anything. They teach you how to work. So you gotta go 9 to 5, go for your lunch break, and it's the whole work system in there. Now, like I was saying before, the money thing, where if you eliminate it, again, economy has all to do with money. So the whole process is to eliminate all of that. You eliminate banking, you eliminate accounting, you eliminate anything that has to do with money because we don't need it. So all those people in power, first of all, won't have that power any longer. So that's the solution. Where the big turnaround is going to be, because you can see that the debt's going higher and they just print as much as they want. So they're going to start off with universal income, which is still not going to work, but it's going to make everyone happy for a little while. So it's going to prolong the inevitable, which is the elimination of money and trading. So there's no trading, there's no barter. Everything is there for you. It's 2024, 2025. We're almost at 2030. You don't need this money every day to survive. Everything should be provided, and everyone can still go to work and still get a free education and better health care. That's how the world should be. They're not using the money to help their countries. The whole border, all the borders, they fight with each other about whose economy is better and whose economy is doing this and doing that. We're all one world. So we don't need that bull crap about economy and money. It's stupid. It's just like embedded in our heads that we have to have it. We don't need it at all, and we never did. And we never will need it again.
I can tell you something from experience. I lived in Europe late 80s, early 90s. And when I lived there, we would go to the supermarket and we put a bunch of stuff in the car and we go pay and walk away, don't even look for the price. Last time I visited Europe, uh, a piece of bread that I used to buy 10 of them for $1, it cost me $2.50. And this is what's coming to us. This is what I'm trying to say. What's coming to us right now in Europe, if you go to the supermarket and you're a family of 5, you buy one apple and you cut it in 5 and you give each one a piece of apple. This is what's coming to us right now. If you guys see before the pandemic and after the pandemic, where we used to go to the supermarket, fill up the cart, and leave without even looking at the prices. Now we go to the supermarket, we have a mental math. They're teaching us how to do mental math before you get to the cash register, and basically that's the route. That's how a good goy would behave. And whether we like it or we're not, we're just goys. We're just slaves. It's just a new, different kind of slavery.
Okay, you the same guy that tried to act like you really didn't know too much, but I told you it wasn't your fault, right? How much has your paycheck went up since your bills went up?
I'm a self-employed.
I understand it. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. You self-employed. How much money is you getting extra?
My check went down 50%.
Okay, so see now you feel the hit. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? That's the only thing I'm saying. They say the economy doing good, down
No, no.
2.6%, but a bunch of people ain't got nothing but a bunch of part-time jobs and shit. And they're still doing good. Now, don't get me wrong, but where the people get back from it? Everybody else got bailout. They say we got one on the when we had the pandemic. That's what they said our bailout was. Unless you had to start
only
out there.
only few people got rich. Only a few people. Like now, I'm talking from the average citizens. I'm not talking about the big money people that knows the things that we don't know. People like me and you. Some people were lucky. Some people were sneaky. Some people were. But from what I know exactly, I own my own business, and
Yes, sir.
the cost of everything went up. The consumer is spending, like I own a small fast food restaurant, okay, and I've noticed lately the customer that used to come and buy 3-4 items from me now is coming just to buy one item. Like even when you're cashing out a customer, when you're in a restaurant business, you ask me for a sandwich while I'm taking you to the cash register, anything to drink, anything else, yada yada yada. Even the drink, even that soda, are
Wow.
saying, yeah, they're like, oh, no, I know, like same customers. I've had that restaurant for 10 years, and the same
Yeah.
guy that used to come and get a sandwich and a soda and a dessert, now this guy is getting a
A
sandwich
sandwich.
and is asking me for a cup of tap water.
Lord have mercy. See, I was finna say, I'm not saying, see, I'm a black man, and sometimes it get misconstrued when I'm on lives like that. There's like, well, I'm not saying America great again, but my granddad, he was able to buy 2-3 houses with one job and take care of his children. Now all of a sudden we can't do that with 2 and 3 jobs, and you got a whole business.
Listen, I own my own
And
business.
you see what I'm saying? But people own their own business probably ain't making no more than to do with 2 jobs.
Before the
You see what I'm
pandemic,
saying?
yeah, before the pandemic, my plan was to buy a house, all right, and I had my 20% to put down ready.
Beautiful.
Come with
Okay,
me, buddy.
so
I'm your real estate agent. I got
okay,
you.
yeah, but I had,
You got 20%. I ain't got
I said,
10%.
hold on, guys, hold on. I said I had, I didn't say I have.
Oh, okay. I was just
I,
saying I ain't getting but 10.
I had my 20% down ready. The pandemic came, the pandemic ended, and the prices went up, and my 20% became 5%.
Wow.
And the prices the prices of the houses went up that it's impossible for me to buy. I'm 50 years old right now, so if I buy a house right now, if I buy a house right now, I will be done paying that house when I'm 80 years old.
I'm 46. I done learned a couple of things, and I think you can get you one before that.
Brother,
Like
you gotta. Sorry to
yeah.
cut you off. Don't buy a house if it's too expensive because the interest rate is too high.
Especially on the back end, the interest rate go up so
I'll
high.
be honest with you. I'm thinking of selling my business and move out of the country.
I mean, that's what most people are doing right now because it doesn't make sense to even live in Canada. You know, Canada's the worst right now.
I'm in the United States. I'm in South Florida.
Why would you sell your business? Why won't you just relocate it to another country?
It doesn't matter. Listen, I pay for a 2-bedroom apartment house, 2-bedroom apartment rent.
Probably paying what, $2,000, $2,500?
2,900.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
Okay, $2,900, and in my building over right there, on one floor, each floor has 9 units. On one floor, I have seen only past week 3 eviction notices on one floor only. Downtown Miami, you about 6-7 months ago, you would drive downtown Miami, all these buildings are lit up. Now you drive downtown Miami, all these apartments the lights are turned off.
Yeah, your market.
And yeah.
See, I
I'll be
stay in
honest with you,
Alabama. I'm right above you. My market ain't that different.
Yeah, I'm thinking actually right now, Tesla make houses, Box It. It's called Box It.
Yeah, I seen it, but I did research on it. It don't seem like it's real yet.
Don't waste.
I ain't sure.
Yeah,
They said it was $10,000. I researched that, and that's a lie.
No,
It doesn't come with.
$10,000 for a 1-bedroom.
What about the plumbing?
Oh,
No, you have to do the plumbing and you have to do.
yeah,
all
you
of
got
that.
about the land, the plumbing,
Yeah,
there's so many things.
Yeah, I mean, on the end, if I looked into it, if I move out of state, I go more up north, and I buy a piece of land, and I put that, I get 4 units and attach them together. It will cost me about $90,000 to $95,000 between the units, and another $100,000 for the land if I go to, let's say, up north Michigan or anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, even check Alabama.
The thing is, usually
I'm right up here in the heart of
yeah,
this, and you can buy you a mansion for that, baby.
Yeah, but when you're self-employed, and you move from a state to another, it's like changing country.
True.
It means I have to relearn the people, I have to relearn the landscape, I have to learn the business mentality of the people, and by the time I get to that place and I learn all of that, I'm screwed.
Yeah, broke at that point.
Yeah, I go back to zero.
All you have to do is invest in the other location, but you can still stay in Florida. You don't have to.
But the thing is,
I told him to come to Alabama. It's gonna be a lot cheaper. He just had to drive.
Can you find me?
That's the place.
Can you find me an employee now? That's the problem.
You don't have to leave your job either.
It depends on what kind of job you get.
I tell you, man. I've owned this restaurant for 10 years. I know what's up.
Oh, the restaurant.
What kind of food y'all sell?
I do Middle Eastern food. I have a shawarma place, and it's one of the top food in South Florida.
So how much? How is your profit?
I mean, I've been a chef for 35 years. My food cost is about 80%, which is national average is 35%.
Yeah, that's
so. Yeah, if you have a food cost of 18%, that tells you how good I am of what I do.
Okay, I know inland seafood right here on the Gulf of Mexico because I worked for them for a long time. And I can tell you their actual names. I don't know if they'll allow you to do that on TikTok. But you can probably get the same price right here. You still in the Gulf.
Seafood is way cheaper than meat. You know that, right?
Yeah,
The
that's what I'm
only
saying.
the only thing that you buy the fish, it sits in your fridge for 3 days. You have to throw it away.
Not
When
when
you
you sit
buy,
on. You
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
in. You see when?
What?
Okay.
Yeah, when you buy meat, the meat, like even if you come here in South Florida and you go to the restaurants, I look around. We're on the ocean. We're supposed to have more seafood than meat.
True.
You go to places they don't serve seafood
Mm-mm.
because of the handling of the seafood and all of that. First, it goes bad really fast. Uh, yeah, the food cost, the cost of the product, but the waste in it is greater, is high, is very high actually.
Hey, how much you want to sell your business for?
Well, I have it up. Actually, I have it up for sale, and I have a buyer. But the thing is, I don't know if I do really want to sell it, and if I do, like after owning a business for 10 years, and like right now, if let's say I sell for 300,000, okay, and if I sell 100,000, I have to see closing expenses, which the realtor is 12%. That's right there, $36,000. So I'm down from 300,000 to 260. Then you have Uncle Sam capital gain,
Yeah.
okay,
Damn.
and then goes down. That goes down. I would say 16%. What is it? 45,000 on the 300,000, right?
You ain't got that more. You already got
Okay.
cut. Now.
So
No.
I am down down to $220. So the minute I leave my restaurant and I go look for another investment, even if I want to open a grocery store, let's say, okay, I have to survive 4 to 6 months without income to build my business, and that is in the money of Miami or money of South Florida. That is average about 10 to $12,000 a month. And that is another 36,000 gone from the money. I'm down to 185.
Do you
You
get to
should.
keep your own name?
Is it?
Sorry.
You get to keep
That's
your
the
own.
thing. That's the thing. I do want to sell it, but I don't want to sell it. And if you look at it, no matter how I turn it around, it's a lose-lose situation for me.
Well, you should keep it and get a manager.
Ah,
That's
man,
gonna.
I've tried, man. They let me tell you, man. I cannot go see a doctor. I cannot
I
But
go
know.
but
anywhere.
you doing great. You got 12%. I mean, you is a businessman.
Not only, man, and I am in a community where during COVID, if you guys believe it or not, I don't know if you guys have heard about something like that before, where when COVID hit, I was lost. Like, should I stay open? Should I spend my money at home? Should I spend my money in my business? How is it gonna go? How are we gonna do? What we do? And in the community I live in, they heard that I am on a 50-50 chance to close. Okay, and plus I didn't apply for any government grant because every time I went to a bank, they turned me to another bank, then another bank turns me to, to get the PPP and all that bullshit.
Yes, sir.
I haven't seen a penny from that. So I was like kind of lost. And believe it or not, the community I'm in, they did a GoFundMe page for me. They raised me $50,000 in cash. Okay, my line, the customer's line was from here about I would say 500-600 feet outside the stores, social distancing and all of that. I had to turn off my online ordering. I had to turn off my phone. Don't answer my phone anymore. I had to stop basically anything. If you walk in the store, you get food. If you don't walk in the store, good luck calling the restaurant. So
That's
with all
amazing.
that, yeah, with all that, I have a very good reputation. Like everybody in that in the market where I'm at, I'm in a small island of LA with 11,000 people living in it.
Can we ask you how many children you got though?
I got I got 3 daughters, man. I
Okay,
have,
you got $3, so you got
yeah,
5 people.
yeah,
It's
and
gotta be a nice
two,
little community somewhere in Florida. You got
two,
to drive down now.
yeah,
Hey
I
two.
was
guys,
gonna leave them folks like that.
this is an interesting conversation, but a different forum. So if it's okay, we're talking about food, cost of goods, which I love business stuff. But
No, he ready to sell. You ain't been listening to him, Chip.
I've run 4 different companies in my life, so I know exactly what Federico's talking about. I haven't run a restaurant business, but I know how hard those are.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely take it offline, and you guys can do a direct convo about the restaurant industries or whatever you want to talk about. But if you want to talk about the issues of Israel Palestine or something like
Oh
that, or
yeah,
money
oh
something
I
like
yeah.
that,
do.
That's
I
that's
do
my
an
Don't you
main
got a
argument.
point.
video for a Chip?
I do an
what's that?
argumentation. I've been wanting to speak about it,
Yeah,
but just in a different
go ahead.
way.
Yeah, go ahead, Yemeni. Bring up your issue.
Okay, I just want to speak about, what, okay, the worst famine was in, if anyone knows, was in Yemen, and it's been happening for many years. And they were the first people to help Palestine, like literally, physically. They tried, they did whatever they can in regards to the, I mean, that was like it not just affected Israel, it like affected the whole world, basically. Like Yemen, the people that everyone thought was a bunch of nobodies. Well, let me tell you guys something. Yemen is not who they used to be. Yemen is different now. They have a lot of backup. They already have a lot of their own stuff that they don't even talk about because they just don't want to. They don't like. They're not like America and all these other countries that like to say what they have. That's how they are. That's how they roll. That's how they get down. I mean, you're looking at little kids with 8Ks, ages 6 years old, walking around with 8Ks, like it's nothing, driving Toyotas. They're about that life. They're about, they're willing to, be not in this earth anymore. They're willing to do whatever, and they already showed that by quite a few of their actions. And they're showing it even more, and they're letting it be known that they don't care. And little boom booms that they threw at them, that they threw at open land, they knew that those weren't nothing, and they said that basically you guys did that for nothing, just to try to scare nobody. You guys didn't scare anybody. Those were just useless boom booms that you guys had to just throw. So my thing is, what do you guys think about with them doing what they're doing in the Red Sea, and with them being who they are, coming from where they come from, not even having anything, and now they cut off to them, which was like crucial, very crucial for them, because they're already starving from, malnutrition and lack of food. And even if you have money, there's nothing to buy. I mean, I'm hearing stories from people that I know that tell me, man, it's so bad in my village that, friends that I grew up with that were born and raised in America that have relatives back home in Yemen that say that in their village, like, I'm sending them money, but there's nothing for them to buy. There's nothing. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had a phone call.
Okay. Did you want someone to answer that, or did anybody want to jump in and share their thoughts on that issue about Yemen?
Yeah, I jump in. Yemen are the only true Arab left on earth. They are the only real people. I don't know if you guys met any Yemeni before. I have met, and I doubt they're super honest. They are to the core, and what they did for Palestine right now. I'll be honest with you, everybody in the world, the last one that they expected after 11 years of struggle with the Saudis, no one would have expected an action from Yemen, but these people, they never let they profit. There is a say I'm trying to translate in English that basically the best Arab that you can find are the Yemenis, and it showed often and often to be true. So I gotta give it to you, Yemeni. It's all right. What the Yemen going through right now? It's harsh, but prosperity await Yemen and the Yemenis. Where are you from, the Yemen? Are you from Michigan? Yemen.
He just left off.
Oh, he's.
I had one to ask him a question too. He left off.
I think he's still there.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
he's
he
still there.
muted?
Yeah, he gets muted. Yeah. Right now in Michigan, they're the biggest businessmen. There's all these new Yemeni stores opening, business deals. They're one of a kind. Look what they did to the ship. The first ship they took that was going to Israel.
Yeah, and they strip.
Yeah, they made it. They turned it into a dance floor. I love it.
Y'all a question. What our news do y'all watch?
Was anyone unalived in that, cruise ship or anything like that? Did they harm anyone?
No.
They actually chewed some, that green stuff. They
God.
gave them like the best hospitality. I mean,
Yep.
because that's how we are. We don't have much, but we're gonna give you whatever we have. Like, if I have a piece of chicken, you best believe it's gonna get cut in half. We're eating that chicken, both of us.
Let me tell
No
you
matter how.
an experience I had with a Yemeni guy. The guy found, he used to work for Waste Management. He found an envelope with $10,000 in it. The guy picked it up and went to the office. They tell me who. Now you find $10,000 and you're gonna go look for the owner.
I thought I was being dumb. I was 16 years old. We found $20,000 in the dumpster while we dumping it out at Food Fair. This is a grocery store. So somebody seen it and bring it back. I say I was too young because I would have cared.
What do you guys think about that? Is Israel gonna attack Iran back? I'm not gonna say retaliate because they started it. But yes, this is in Michigan. Yes.
They're probably stupid enough to do it.
Chip, did you watch the Scott Ritter and George Galloway's interview?
Yes.
Yeah, I
That
watched it.
It wasn't amazing. You see, a lot of people don't. Ritter is a very, very, very good military analyst, and he knows.
Douglas McGregor is too. He's ground man. He gonna let you know what they can and can't do for real.
Scott Ritter was involved in the Middle East. He knows exactly.
Yeah, but Douglas McCartney was the one on the ground in Iraq. I really had nothing to do with shock and awe. Had nothing to do with he just somebody coming in and tell him what it's supposed to be, and he told them they ain't have nothing.
Yeah, but Scott Ritter is more of an.
Oh yeah, he's more incredible because he gonna tell the truth.
He's more of an intelligence guy, and when you talk to intelligence people, they don't talk out of their analysis. They know how, even the regular military people on the ground, they don't know how intelligence works. But when you are an intelligence officer, you know the dirty how dirty it is, and you know the clean how clean it is.
Okay, but I ain't finna put him with Colonel Douglas McGregor. McGregor had to go
he's
watching
good.
folks die on his
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah. But
And Scott, the one that gave him the good information. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Scott, when he left the military, he went to the Middle East and he got involved with all these organizations and people. So he knows hand to hand how the mentality works, how they think, how
Both
they
of them
operate.
do. They done been around the world and talked to all the big wigs.
Middle East is a little bit particular, James. It's been it's been like this for the past. We never lived in the Middle East without occupation. Like, it's like when we don't have occupation, our issues with the occupation. Somebody please come occupy us.
Do y'all mind, but because the Palestinians in making Afghanistan go back home?
What is it? Say that again one more time.
Oh, you must ain't see it. That's why I was wanting to ask what type of news do y'all watch? Cause I just don't watch American news. I know American news ain't gonna tell me what American want to hear.
No,
I watch all the news.
yeah, I watch.
So you know,
If you wanna know the future, you gotta
oh
watch
no, I
America.
don't.
Yeah, if you wanna know the future, I'm talking in warfare wise. If you wanna know the future, you watch American news because they usually starts with the propaganda.
True.
And if you want to watch the truth, watch the local news. And now, actually, today you watch the TikTok. That's all you need. On Saturday when the attack happened, nobody was watching the news. We were all on TikTok watching live videos, live feed from Palestine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and remember, Chip, when we were talking when they had just fired the drones, and I told them that's a decoy, and the missiles are coming right after.
I'm sorry to say that. Thank you. I believe it all was a fake. Is this another flag war or something?
No. In the military point of view, this is called the drones is called scouting with fire.
Oh yeah, I know. They just testing y'all.
Yeah, it's scouting with fire, and these drones had three different purposes. First purpose is, everybody has a location where they try to hack into these drones.
Yes, sir.
And these drones will pick up the signal who is trying to hack and where is the location of that guy is trying to hack me. So when the Iranian fired the drones starting from the Iranian land, they started picking up signal to see where are these.
But they already knew what they were picking the signals up. I already know that.
No, but the Iranian has listen. These people are very, very, very smart.
I know. I'm talking to Iranians knew that all the time.
Yeah. No, but they were picking up signals, picking up IP addresses from all the way from Iran all the way to Israel, and the purpose of these drones was scouting, and it was a psychological warfare to spread fear. Imagine the Israeli were sitting for 7 hours in fear, waiting for the drones to get there. They exhausted they knew who's gonna interfere with the operation, which is Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, the United States, France, and Britain. And these are 5 countries on the outside of the Israeli land. Then you have
really ain't got nothing but 2 countries on the outside. Them other ones, they really ain't knocking nothing down. Let's keep it real.
No. Saudis were helping. Egyptians were helping. The Americans were helping. We
got all the weapons. I mean, ain't we helping? We giving it to you to help you.
To help who? Jordan?
No, not Jordan. Jordan ain't knocked down there. And I don't believe it because I've been listening to Al Jazeera and everything else. Man, them playing knock down by miracles. Let's keep it real. They seen they were trying to bombard Israel. They wasn't trying to hit Israel for real.
No,
they were trying to deplete their missiles.
2 targets. They had 2 targets in Israel.
And they hit them.
Yeah, and they did hit them. I'm not saying they didn't, but when you're scouting with fire, it means you take that result, you take them home, and you sit down on the table, and you look at what really happened during that attack. Okay, and the bases that they already hit, the military base, the fighter jet flew off to drop on the Iranian embassy in Syria. And the second one is it was the intelligence center where where the orders came out of.
That's the one they wanted to hit.
Yeah, the Iranian did not want to hit any civilians. They had no intention of harming any civilians
That showed me remorse right there. They're not trying to be funny.
because it's not allowed even by religion. Like the Iranians are very religious when it comes to play rules of war and all of that, and in daily life, religion comes first. And a lot of people they say that it's gonna have Iran is building nukes, Iran building nuke. Iran will not build nuke because it's against Islamic rules. Islamic rule prohibit the building of self-destruction product like does not belong to your own body. It's not, even if you cut your own arm, you're responsible for that in front of God. So when it comes to that, I know they're very straight. Now the Israeli respond. That is what and a lot of people in the Middle East they say, and if they're, I think I'm hearing myself double. I'm gonna drop and come back, Chip.
Okay. We're going to be closing up shop in about 5 or 10 minutes, everybody.
What we gonna do about it, Chuck? Chip, what we gonna do?
Well, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just do what they're going to do and I'll react to what they do. Nothing I can do to stop them. So
It seems like it don't nobody want to negotiate at all.
Good night, everyone. Everyone have a good night. Yo.
Oh, you have a good night. I appreciate everybody up here being so respectable. That's why I love your line, Chip.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's one way to do it. There are other ways to do it, which I don't like. I like doing it this way.
You found the video yet? That you say you were gonna play? I mean, you say you were gonna play the video
about central bank digital currencies. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't.
No, I thought you was moving on to something else. You was like, if y'all don't want to watch this, I got that move. My bad. You were talking about the central bank.
Yeah, I want to find a better video. I didn't like the one that I found.
Because they don't like the one you found. That's on Alberta. What is called Alberta?
I'll find one that I like more, and then I'll show it at some point. I just didn't like the ones that I was looking at.
But nah, you do a good job, and you stay killed, and all that arguing and fussing don't mean that. All I see is you trying to find what's gonna be the end result. Can we do something about this?
Well, right now you have to remember who's in power and who's making the decisions. So we meaning you and I, are supposed to vote for these representatives, but they're all controlled by other people. The voting process doesn't really change the power structure. So whether we vote Democrat, Republican, Independent, the same moneyed interests do the same thing they're going to do no matter who gets in, and therefore the policies tend not to change very much.
Well,
so what we have to do is we're gonna have to change that for things to change. That's a very long uphill battle.
But I thought it has nothing to do with the Constitution, do it? How do they get away with that?
Well, the technically things are being done according to the Constitution, but they've been able to change certain elements of the decisions at the Supreme Court that are very difficult to undo. They require constitutional amendments to undo, and there's only two paths to a constitutional amendment. That's going to be 2/3 of Congress or 3/4 of the state houses. And if you have enough money in both places to block it, then it becomes an issue that cannot be remedied through the traditional political process as outlined by the Constitution. So here we are. So the question is, what are we going to do? What I can tell you what we can do. I can tell you what people aren't going to want to hear, though.
Oh, that's what I'm listening for.
You want to hear? Well, so you have to think of it this way. Why does the H group fight the way they fight under the tunnels? Right? Why do they do that?
Oh, I guess you supposed to be saying saving your livelihood. That's what I'm gonna say. I ain't gonna say country, whatever. You think about the babies, you think about everybody.
Well, for example, they don't have the same number of fighters and they don't have the same amount of equipment as the enemy does, right? The Israeli
Oh, I
military.
already said that. I mean, come on now. You messing with somebody with ain't got nothing but a stick in their hand, throwing rocks.
So the point is, what they do is they use stealth and they use the earth itself to protect themselves from the powerful enemy. So the key is, what tools and resources does one group have that the other group does not have? That's the thing to think about.
That's why I said we financing this.
James, is it possible? There's some background noise on your end. I don't know if it's a TV or radio or something like that. If you want to keep the conversation going, see if you can get outside that noise source. But to get back to what people don't want to hear, just like when you have a union for a company, if the company's not taking care of the staff eventually has to organize and come together because they have more workers than there are management. And without the workers, things don't get done in the business. And if things don't get done in the business can't make money, lose customers. And at some point, they're going to have to make a decision. Do we want to give a little more to the workers for whatever they're asking for? Or do we want to stand on our side and just sit here forever and hemorrhage money and hemorrhage customers? And so similarly, the people that are in power, they have money and they want to keep making money. And there are a certain set of gears that allow the money to continue. One is the workforce. Another one is the actual purchases that people make. So in other words, if we didn't go to the store and buy anything for 6 months, I mean, everybody just stayed home and didn't buy anything from Amazon, just bought essentials, food and medicine. That would destroy these corporations, right? And all the rich shareholders that make all that money wouldn't be making all that money. So just like a boycott would work for like Starbucks, McDonald's, Disney, like it's being done here, this is everything. This isn't Israel, this is bigger than Israel. So imagine if all of us tomorrow morning, if you had a neighbor and you saw them going to buy something at, I don't know, Hobby Lobby, you'd be like, dude, don't go buy that shit. We're not going to spend any money for the next, 6 months or whatever it may be. So that's to starve out the corporations. It's another pressure point. Then you got to physically get out in the streets. If you haven't heard, recently there have been a lot of Palestinians or pro-Palestinian marchers that have shut down the Golden Gate Bridge during rush hour. They literally shut down the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. That's a huge artery. But that has to be done everywhere. In other words, the gears of commerce have arteries, which is the roads, the bridges, the ports, the airports, et cetera, the train stations. And if that stuff isn't moving, either are the goods and services that are sold to make money. So you don't go out and buy stuff. You put your body in the way of the arteries of commerce. You don't give them your labor for a while. And then you don't pay any taxes into the system. And you do those things at once, at scale, with a series of very specific demands that if they're not met, you're not going to stop until they're met. That's what has to happen.
So you got to do basically the Martin Luther King. Just don't buy nothing, don't do nothing.
Way bigger than.
No, I'm just talking about in America. We can't make the world do it now.
No, I'm talking about in America. That has to be way bigger than the civil rights. But that's we have to get tens of millions of Americans to participate all at once.
Oh my God.
It's going to be a lot of work. No one wants to hear it. It's going to be the most difficult thing to do in American history. I don't think it's going to happen. And here's why I don't think it's going to happen. Not because I'm not an optimist. Because look at if you get off my live right now and you just scroll through the other lives, you're going to see at least 2 or 3 that are pro-Trump and 2 or 3 that are pro-Biden. And they'll be telling everybody else that they're the idiot. Oh, you're an idiot. Oh, you're a MAGA. You're a criminal, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Just like the divide and conquer strategy in Israel, where Netanyahu funded Hamas so they wouldn't get together and work together to overcome their plight, same thing in America. They divide people left and right, while the real enemy is above them, the people that are stealing all their money.
It's incredible. You can walk in the Congress or the Senate and ain't got nothing but $45 in your pocket, and you leave, you got $45 million.
Yep, it's a game. So in other words, here's the thing. This is the hard part no one wants to hear. It's just like when somebody says, I want to reach a goal. Let's say it's maybe lose weight or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, here's what will change. You got to start going to the gym every day. You got to start buying different groceries. You can't go out to eat. You're like, whoa, wait a second. That sounds like work, And that's what people want to say. Where's the diet pill and where's the Netflix show I can watch? That's people want the easy way out. And listen, I'm not trying to. I understand. I'm not. I'm
Me
no
too.
Democrat.
I'm just laughing at you.
But what my point is that when people find out what the insurmountable task is, they just don't want to face it, and that's understandable. So I call it people staying in their lane. And I think most people, until their lane is so uncomfortable that it doesn't make any sense to stay in it, it's less risky to leave your lane than it is to stay there. That's when something will change. I don't think they're going to they're going to kind of keep people just enough that they won't want to leave their lane, but that's it. And then the rest of the money's going up to the top, and that's the way it's going to be. And as they put further and further controls on us, anyway, it is what it is, man.
I appreciate you, Chip, but I just want to know how they're going to keep the goods and services coming in if there ain't no work going on.
Well, they won't worry. Listen, as long as people aren't literally rioting, they don't care who falls off the edges of society. I mean, they don't give a shit. The people that fall off the edges don't count to these people. They already have the fastest growing population in the United States of homeless people are people over the age of 65. To me, that's disgusting. All right, James, I know you got some noise back there. I tell you what I'm going to do, folks. I want to tell you my regular schedule first. I normally go live Wednesday nights, like tomorrow night, from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and then on Saturdays from 12 to 4 Eastern, and then here and there when I do it, like tonight. So there's a link in my bio if you want to check out the recording of this, which is going to be put up on YouTube and Rumble in the next hour. Go to my link in bio. It's Linktree Chip Barnes. Click on it. If you're outside the U.S., there's some characters in my bio that you have to type into your web browser. It'll take you to my YouTube and my Rumble, and you'll see them on there. They're done by date. And if I can remember what the subject was, I type it in there when I can. So thanks for being here, everybody. I really appreciate everybody being here, James and the other panelists. Brenda, thanks for moderating earlier if you're still listening. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their night. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.